I'm Robert Walsh. Let's start off with some good news from over the holiday. New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced he is in full remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma. The veteran tight end made the announcement some 3 months ago after he was diagnosed, following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while he was visiting the team during free agency. Death, taxes, and Joey Chestnut. The most decorated champion in competitive eating did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on his way to victory, falling 14 shy of the record 76 dogs that he set in 2021. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics are exploring a sign-and-trade. The Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and the Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams. In the MLB, the Atlanta Braves fell to the Cleveland Guardians 6-5 in the first extra inning, thanks to a David Fry walk-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday morning on a rainy morning in Middle Tennessee. Welcome in to Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Well rested after celebrating our nation's independence and back at it for 4 more hours. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. Alongside former Tennessee Titan Brad Hopkins filling in once again for the Big Ragu, Ramon Foster. We've got Kayla Anderson. We've got Robert Walsh making the show happen. My name is Will Bowling. Happy July 5th. We all made it here with all of our fingers and toes properly attached. This is a good thing. Good morning.
Well, I've got shoes on, so what if I was missing a toe?
I feel like you would have told us.
I probably wouldn't have even been in here. No, actually, I would have.
You'd be like Deion Sanders.
Exactly.
Missing a toe.
Those are some gnarly feet, too.
Yeah, man. You see his feet, Robert?
Man, terrible for him.
I meant to ask you, bro. Is your The Zone timed out? Because I've been trying to time you out, and I can't get it.
It's all a feel thing. I never know when I'm going to go. Sometimes I just forget to do it, and I just go to break.
Yeah.
I dig it. On this day, Will, real quick.
Yep.
In 1949,
Okay.
Philip Hopkins was born.
There you go.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Dad.
There you go. Fantastic.
Happy birthday.
Pops.
Yep.
Love it.
Today's your birthday.
You guys do anything?
Yeah, he's coming over. We're going to grill. The kids are going to meet at the crib, and
Very nice.
Nice.
Colin suggested thighs specifically.
Yeah. Ron's eating those now.
Oh,
Chicken thighs.
chicken thighs?
They're a game changer.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's the place to go
Discovered
for.
them.
It's super cheap, too. Way cheaper than just regularly just getting a pack of breasts.
Sure.
Exactly.
That's what she said.
I've realized that thighs and chicken tenderloins are much easier to make in just like normal dishes.
Kayla, do you frequent KFC?
Nope. I do not.
Too good for that?
I mean, probably my stomach is well aware of what it can and can't digest. And so, long time ago, I realized that's not a digestible food for me.
I was just going to be an advocate for the nuggets. They are phenomenal.
Now,
Really?
I could see the nuggets being okay.
Yeah.
In terms of, I'll get nuggets from the store,
Mhm.
but they're usually like the non-antibiotic, all that stuff.
Gotcha. The Sprouts kind of. I got you.
The Sprouts.
So, Brad, I'm going to run by this dish that I made again last night that Kayla and
boy.
Ramon
Ooh,
I've
do
talked to
tell.
about a lot.
Hear
And it
this.
sounds weird, but it's really good. And I made it again last night because I made I can make enough of it to get through the week. But it is a buffalo chicken sweet potato.
Shut your mouth.
And it's literally homemade buffalo chicken dip on top of a sweet potato. And it is so good.
Oh, my gosh, that sounds good.
That sounds
You
good.
wouldn't think it would go together, but it does. And it's actually healthy. It's got like a ton of protein in it. It's like a little bit of like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, chicken with like a ton of hot sauce. And then just a sweet potato.
How'd you come up with that?
This guy I work with who gives me workouts, then gives me meals, basically my kind of the trainer that I've worked with since I moved back here. Because I was like, look, I don't I'm not a college athlete, obviously, anymore, and I would like to no longer look like a distance runner because I haven't been a distance runner since about 2016. And he was like, yeah, like try this out. I was like, this sounds terrible, but sure, whatever. And it's absolutely
phenomenal.
Yeah. Takes like 20 minutes. So
Nice.
Kayla and Ramon have watched me become like from I can only microwave popcorn to like I know a little bit enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Cooking now.
Went from a door dasher to a
Literally.
little bit of a cook.
Really?
Just a dasher.
Are you a foodie?
So probably not in terms of like the actual definition of that and like people that legitimately know like cool, trendy places to go. But like I would call myself an amateur foodie. Like I know what I like and don't like very clearly. And I know like different stuff. Like I'll eat anything and I love it. Like I'm not very picky, even though I really was as a kid, which is kind of funny. But like that being said, I go to the same 5 places all the time. So I don't really have variety,
That's
but
true.
like
That's
I'm a
me
foodie
too.
with my like 4 or 5 spots. Then beyond that,
Isn't that something? You have your same 5 spots, but you call yourself changing it up. Let's
I
do
know.
something different.
Hard
Right.
to get out of.
One
One
been
of
2
the
weeks.
5.
Yeah.
right?
Maybe once every year I'll add a new one to that list of like places I'll go.
That's fair.
Frequent.
So okay, are we team hot dogs or team burgers on July 4th?
Burgers. Always.
Oh, I thought you were going Joey Chestnut.
Oh, we'll get there in a minute. Don't worry.
I thought so. You said hot dog, and I just immediately went there.
Yep.
Hot dogs or burgers, you said?
Yeah.
Burger for sure.
Really?
Even though I do love hot dogs. I do love me a good hot dog now. Don't
See,
get me wrong.
Yeah.
I am team get one of both.
Oh, well, you,
Okay.
100%.
you gave me
There
one
you
or the
go.
other.
No, C, both A,
C.
B.
Well, I
C,
want
both
C.
A and B.
I want C.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
C is the correct answer.
What kind of dog are y'all a fan of? Because I am a fan of the charcoal,
Char grilled.
dark all over,
Yep.
where it's like cracking. You can see the
100%.
pink coming out the side. Love burnt dogs.
Yep.
Burnt dogs.
If it's not burnt, I send it back.
Yep.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and take me to like the Twice Daily or some gas station that has jalapeno cheese in it. I'm in.
Then you're good.
I'm in
I
there.
like that.
Yeah, Robert. You feel me, don't you?
I'm with you. Oh, yeah. Jalapeno cheese is the bane of many people's existence.
Especially when they have the bun warmer
Oh,
in the
yeah.
bottom of the thing. You
That's a
all
game
know.
changer.
That sets
Yep.
it off.
We use,
When you're on your way in there to buy some cigarettes or whatever, right, Kayla?
well,
Huh?
I don't buy those, but
That's me.
now in high school, we would frequent 7-Eleven, and we did not eat well as high school kids. Who did really? But we get the footlongs. They'd have like the footlong hot dogs at 7-Eleven. Oh yeah.
Like it's Sonic.
Oh
I didn't
yeah.
even know
The
they made a
conies.
foot-long hot dog at 7-Eleven.
Oh yeah.
When you get chili out of a dispenser, you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to
Oh,
be good.
I forgot
So
about that.
okay, I was watching the hot dog eating contest yesterday, and we will get to this because Joey Chestnut's the best athlete of our generation, and there was a guy in the hot dog eating contest who they said ate a gallon of chili in like a couple minutes, and that to me is psychopathic behavior.
Ooh.
Like that would have to be like a sauce. Like Skyline chili is a sauce. We talk about this all the
Correct.
time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Correct.
we could talk to Rocky Boiman about that, who joins us at 8:20 this morning, hosts a radio show in Cincinnati. That, like, if you view those things as a sauce and not as actual chili, then they're fine. Like, I've talked to people about this all the time. Like, Skyline chili isn't that bad. You just have to view it as a sauce and not as a chili.
Right. You're 100% right.
And so, like, chili sauce like that, it's like, okay, well, like, if you're eating
Still
it by
a
itself,
gallon.
that's a you problem
That's a
because it's a
lot.
sauce. Goodness,
Where does it go?
I'm already hungry.
In and out,
And
and not
yeah.
the burger place.
Yeah, not the burger.
And it probably doesn't change any of its shape or form, huh?
No.
Just like it
Like
went
corn.
in.
Oh, gosh.
Like corn.
615-737-1045, our number. If you want to jump in this morning, the question of the day is, who is the most underrated player on this Tennessee Titans roster? We get to that in hour number 2 this morning. We talk with Rocky Boiman, former Tennessee Titans linebacker, at 8:20, ESPN college football color analyst and host of the Eddie and Rocky Show up there in Cincinnati. We'll get a little bit of a kind of status report on a Cincinnati team that's going through a fascinating offseason as they wait for Joe Burrow's extension before they can make a number of moves, plus just get the outside perspective on the Tennessee Titans and this team going into the beginning of July here from a guy who wore the two-tone blue. So look forward to catching up with him again And then Rhett Bryan at 9 o'clock. And Brad, this summer with Rhett, we have been going into the Titans radio archives, and we have been playing old highlights on Titans radio of classic Titans games. And Rhett assures me that he has the highlights of a game you played in and a game that is very near and dear to the hearts of Titans fans as they remember Steve McNair every July 4th. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So we will do that at 9 and at 9:20 with Rhett. And then, of course, Midweek Motivation, as always, from our guy Inky Johnson to finish off the show this morning at 9:45. Going to be good. Got a lot to discuss, even though Kayla and I are learning, Brad. This is our first full summer and first full year as sports talk radio hosts. That I don't want to speak for everyone. I feel like we've had a good time through the dog days of summer with no football and no football practices going on.
I think sometimes that kind of, I've always been a person when somebody tells me like something's going to be hard or something's going to be boring or something's going to disappoint.
Yeah.
I've always had the mentality to like not even listen to that. It's like my my journalism professor in college saying, you're going to hate broadcast journalism. You're going to get out of it the first 5 years. It's awful. And then, like, I've been in it 17 years. Like, I always just go the other route. And then I always end up having whatever opinion I did, it goes that direction. So it's not been bad at all. It's actually been pretty good.
There you go.
Just because you guys are having fun with what you're doing.
There we go.
It's true.
That's it.
No, seriously.
I know.
I mean, these are the way the show flows is a reflection of who you guys are and how your chemistry basically comes through these airwaves. It's definitely, you can tell you guys have great chemistry.
Well, thank you.
Brad.
Seriously.
We enjoy having you on, too.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
It better be.
Absolutely.
Doggone right.
No, that's right.
615-737-1045. If you did lose a finger or toe and want to share the story, 615-737-1045. We've got all of our appendages in the correct position.
I didn't even do fireworks.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Seriously. I was asleep by 10.
I heard him.
I tried to be, and then the downtown fireworks were delayed.
That's
right.
right.
I live in the downtown area, and there's a parking garage next to my apartment. And I remembered last night while I was doing laundry and cooking and watching baseball and just like finishing my evening, I had the blinds totally open, and I look over, and there's like 10 people just like staring into my apartment because they're like on top of the parking garage to watch the fireworks. It's like, oh.
They're waiting for some fireworks themselves.
Y'all want a plate? Like y'all paying to eat? Like what are we
doing here?
And then the fireworks.
How are you? Hold on a second. Set the scene. How are you dressed?
Like t-shirt and shorts.
Okay,
that was
good.
That was decent.
Thinking the Hugh Hefner robe.
Right.
But
smoker's robe.
there was like they delayed the fireworks until like 9:55, like 10ish.
Is there a reason?
Rain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was raining, and there was some.
Okay.
Thunder
When did you
and lightning.
notice that they were looking at you?
Well, I never noticed they were totally looking at me. They were just looking in the vicinity of like the building. So I noticed it like as I was going to bed at like 9:45 before the fireworks had started. Because that was my original plan, was to go up on the garage with friends, and then it just never materialized. And once it got delayed, I was like, no, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And then the fireworks started like the second I got in bed. I was like, all right, well, wait for this to get done, then we'll get some sleep. That's okay. Worked out. There was soccer on. It was great.
Nice.
A new MLS attendance record in the Rose Bowl. Sold out the Rose Bowl last night. So that was a fun thing to watch. Anyway, I can bury soccer analysis.
on the
at
pitch?
6:14.
Crazy.
LA and LA.
Yeah.
Oh,
LAFC
nice.
and LA
Shut up.
Galaxy.
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
63,000 or something?
Oh, it was more than that. It was like 80,000.
Was it really?
Yeah. It was pretty good. 615-737-1045. And coming up next, Joey Chestnut saved July 4th. What is the most unbreakable record in sports, and does he have it at 76 hot dogs eaten? Coming up next on our own Kayla and Will.
It's Ramon Foster for Zen Sports, and Zen Sports is a new sports book in Tennessee. Zen Sports brand is focused on making sports betting better today and always, and they do it in so many ways, too. Simply put, the money, cash back rewards, okay? The welcome bonus. You can earn 5% back on your bets for your first 15 days of betting on Zen Sports. The cash reward programs, too. I told you, there's plenty of cash that's coming back to you. You can earn up 3% of your betting volume back as a cash deposit to your account every single month. This happened every month, as I just told you, on the first of every month. So, hey, that's like Saturday if you already signed up for it. Our referral rewards program. Earn 3% of your referral betting volume back as rewards for the first 6 months of betting on Zen Sports as a cash deposit right back to your account. It's routine. It's coming right back to you. And the best part is it's easy to use. You can search and sort bets easily. Set your favorite team. Easiest experience possible when making or building parlays too. And you can withdraw within 24 hours or deposit funds instantly. And even 24/7 customer support anytime you need them. Easy to track rewards and no gimmicky promotional bets that look too good to be true, but rarely are. You know how they'll try to rope you in, and when they got you, they got you. Not with Zen Sports. This is the best sporting book in Tennessee, so stop settling for Vegas rewards when they're right here in Tennessee. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. And terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years and older and in Tennessee to bet.
Wednesday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. Hope you had a great July 4th on a Wednesday morning that kind of feels like a second Monday this week. With Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh, I'm Will Bowling. We will tell our grandkids how Joey Chestnut saved July 4th. Yesterday, the rain and the lightning could not stop the greatest athlete of our generation. Joey Chestnut from winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest once again yesterday. Joey Chestnut in this iteration, I believe, had 63 hot dogs. 62. That's right. There it is. He had
Brad was not going to give him that one.
14 more than the second place finisher. It is his 8th straight contest win and 16th overall.
Jeez.
Did you see the females in the round before?
Oh, yeah.
How do you eat half a hot dog in that contest? You're cramming hot dogs in your mouth. You know they counted her for 38 and a half hot dogs.
I wonder if at that point, if you just eat the hot dog and not the bun, does that count as half?
That does count as half.
Because they do it separately.
Yep.
Robert, it had to be hard for you to watch too. Soaking hot dogs in water and just cramming them in your mouth. It's so gross.
It was hard for me to watch without participating.
Exactly.
As soon as I got home, I made 24 dogs and I ate 6 of them.
Look at that.
You did not.
Over the day, maybe not in 10 minutes, but over the day I did have 6 dogs.
Fantastic.
I don't even think that I could classify in the women's round. 38 hot dogs.
That's a
Could you eat
lot.
38 hot dogs, Will? Kayla?
No, absolutely not. I think maybe double digits. Over a
cannot.
day,
Really?
not over 10 minutes, over a day. I could do 10 hot dogs in a day.
That's easy. In a day?
sure.
I could do 2 hot dogs every hour of the day. I think I could do 48 hot dogs in a day.
I feel like we could put you in a contest like this and you would give it your all.
I
for
would
sure.
give it my all. And especially in a contest like this where you really don't get as much money as you would think. Any guesses on the prize for
True.
first place?
What is it?
Yeah,
$10,000.
that's not
Oh,
great.
$5,000 for second place.
Nope.
I'd spend that on Tums alone.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
but you know what? They'll think of how much money he makes in endorsements.
There you go.
True.
So
That was
he-
the article I read.
Okay.
Over under how much? I actually researched
Oh my
this
God.
yesterday while I was watching it. How much do you think Joey Chestnut makes a year?
Oh, you said over under, so you gave us a number and we to decide over or under.
Let's see. Over under 300K.
Over.
Over.
Please don't tell me it's over. Over.
It is over.
Yeah,
And a half a
absolutely.
mil.
500,000.
Yeah, I was going to say at least 5.
Half a
I
million.
think his net worth is like $4 million.
You shut up, Robert.
I read the same article Will did, I think.
And his teeth still
probably.
look like that.
Wild.
Yep, some of them just want to
Slide
keep that
one in
teeth.
there.
Is he
asking
British?
questions.
It's kind of like our intersections here. One goes this way, one goes that way, you know?
No, Will, I'm not letting that go by.
it's
You're
fun-
Wilson.
No.
What is he,
Said,
British?
is he British?
Is he British? or from West Virginia.
What are you, Austin Powers?
That's right. So that being said, a record of 76 hot dogs, I think, is among the most unbreakable records in sports. And the caveat to that is, I guess maybe it's not unbreakable because Joey Chestnut could still break it at this point in his career. He says he's not anywhere close to being done. So I'm counting this as no one else is breaking that record for the foreseeable
Right.
future. So I'm categorizing that still as unbreakable, as in Joey Chestnut will not be dethroned as the hot dog eating champ of the world. That being said, what is the most unbreakable record in sports? And is it honestly Joey Chestnut and his hot dog record?
I mean, there's no, if we're quantifying hot dog eating
Yep.
amongst the exploits of, like, home runs or
Yep.
Yeah.
touchdowns or yardage gained in the season or whatever else, we're really putting that up there amongst those, right?
Absolutely.
Well, then there's no way in the world that anyone's going to eat 72 hot dogs in a matter of 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
It's just not going to happen.
Unless some new phenom comes along.
Who? How
don't
long
know.
has Joey Chestnut been doing this?
A long time, and
Right.
nobody's wanted to challenge him. At least that.
Because you have to ask yourself why.
Kobayashi was the guy 9 years ago.
Right.
And I think Joey Chestnut won his first contest in 2007.
Gosh.
You
So
think
it's
so-
like 8 consecutive
that's-
wins.
Robert, do you think some
Crazy.
kid right now in Thailand is aspiring to beat Joey Chestnut by eating
a good
73
question.
hot dogs
Yeah,
in a matter of minutes.
Is Joey Chestnut inspiring a young generation of competitive eaters?
Exactly.
Well, have you guys,
How do you train for that?
heard the story of Kobayashi? He was trained his entire life to be a competitive eater.
You shut up, Robert.
And when he lost to Joey Chestnut, they took that job away from him. So
they banned him from. No,
they have been training. Well, he had TMJ or whatever the jaw issue is.
What is
TMJ.
that?
It's TMJ.
Yeah, so he had TMJ. So
Yeah.
they took him out of the competitive eating, but they have been training a competitive eater in Japan to fill his shoes for years now. So
Yeah.
eventually we will see this and unveil this new competitive eater. But
Oh, wow.
until then, I believe Joey Chestnut is safe.
Interesting.
I think he's going to show up like Drago did. Joey Chestnut's going to be old, and he's going to be like, if he
dies, he
chokes,
dies.
Yeah.
he
If he
chokes.
jokes, he jokes.
Be joking.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, is Russia giving us competitive eaters?
AI.
They're strapping them up. They're putting all those things to their jaws
Yep.
and seeing that the physical output, training
Now,
that way.
what would AI come up with for a competitive eater? It can't be something like chiseled and muscled, right? It's got to look kind of sloppy.
Yeah,
and,
they'd have to be. They didn't have to do much work.
right, exactly.
Apparently,
Right?
the fatter you are, it's not actually helpful to be fat in competitive eating because
Right.
it restricts how far your stomach can
Sure,
expand.
sure.
So that's why you see a bunch of like, don't ask me why I know so much about this. I've been infatuated with
he's
this contest
training.
for
I
forever.
think
You're
he's
putting
in
the
training.
fat in
I get it.
infatuation.
Here's the concept, Will. I watched a video where a seagull ate a squirrel.
Oh,
There you go.
Right. So how does a seagull get a squirrel in its body? It seems like its body capacity would be just about as big as a squirrel, right? Watch
its
him
mouth.
put the entire thing in its mouth.
Goodness.
Okay? So think about it.
That's
How you're expanding your
interesting.
stomach or whatever we're talking about, shoving 72, 62 and a half hot dogs or whatever it is. You're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You
so
think they
gross.
get to the back and it's just like, and
You
they're
have
just
to.
coming
It's
right
not-
up like a
yes,
missile
it's-
launcher?
There's no
Need the
way in the world that
onomatopoeia.
they're not purging themselves after theirs. There's no way you're going to sit there with 62 hot dogs in you until it decides to come out.
It's,
No way.
it's unhealthy. Ugh.
so the records I think that are most unbreakable, I think most of these are baseball.
Nolan
Because
Ryan.
baseball has been happening since the 1800s. So
Mhm.
I'm going back to 1884 for Charles Gardner Oldhouse Radbourne for the Providence Grays.
What?
Not many Radborns.
What?
Did not have that on your bingo card this morning.
Radbourne.
He had 59 wins in one season.
Nice.
Charles Oldhouse Radbourne. 59 wins. Like most pitchers now don't pitch more than 35
That's
games
true.
in an entire
You
season
say his name
in terms
correctly.
of starting pitchers.
Oldhouse Radbourne.
That's right.
Was he not American?
A name like that, he's got to be not American.
Yeah.
His name ain't Bill.
The other one is, I think, honestly, where I always go for unbreakable sports records is Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive games played.
Yeah.
2,632 consecutive games played is absolutely ridiculous.
I think Nolan Ryan's 7 no-hitters.
I don't know, though.
That's hard. Nowadays?
I got one in football
Okay.
that'll never be broken.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith broke Walter Payton's all-time rushing record of 16,726 in 2002, right? He ended his career with 18,355 yards after 15 seasons. Derrick Henry has the most career rushing yards by an active player with 8,335.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's in 8 seasons.
Interesting.
Right.
He would need to play at least 7 more seasons and gain 10,000 more yards to even catch Emmett. How about 8,000 for sweetness? Nick Chubb, 6,341 yards, not even in the picture.
Nope.
Latavius Murray, 6,252. I think that Emmitt Smith's record of 18,355 rushing yards will not be broken because of the climate we're talking about with running backs.
Absolutely.
You can keep retreading them, keep
Sure.
recycling them, and they're not going to play long enough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
eclipse 18,000. Derrick Henry has the most rushing yards of an active player, right?
Yeah.
And he's not even 10,000 yards close to even catching up with
Yeah.
Mr. Emmitt Smith.
So I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, guys, about how much does longevity matter in terms of a player's legacy and Hall of Fame resume? Because I was having this argument with a friend who says if Shohei Ohtani retired today, he should still be in the Hall of Fame.
Don't do it because the blister took him out of the game early. You don't go out like that.
Right. But like at that point, if a player has like the 2 best single season performances of the last 20 years of a sport, should that be enough to get them in the Hall of Fame? And I think this applies to Derrick Henry as well when it comes to his Hall of Fame resume as he gets later in his career. Like, how much does sustaining that over the course of a decade or 12 years or however long affect a player's legacy? How much should it affect a player's legacy?
Kayla, I think that when you become a household name, it's easier to become a Hall of Famer.
Boom.
Okay?
And where does Derrick Henry play?
Right.
Not in a household
but
name.
you can dominate the field like a Tony Baselli
Sure.
in a short period of time. The shoulder took him out, right? He was a supplemental draft pick of the Houston Texans. They took him, and he was dominant, but still his shoulder took him out of the game early, but yet he wears a gold jacket because of his dominance of the field.
Sure.
No one could get around him.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing about this is that you have guys like Eli Manning who, compared to quarterbacks of the 1960s and 70s, tripling numbers of guys who are in the Hall of Fame because it's a different league. But you have the argument that guys like Eli Manning, even though they had the longevity in their careers, shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because they were never top 5 at their position when they played. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point because there really wasn't this dominance or even, like the numbers were so like off the charts that we have to acknowledge it, his greatness, right? No, because he played for so long is what we recognize about him.
Well, and
that's
Super
not
Bowl rings.
Yeah,
right?
Well, but because of him?
No.
No.
But he has one.
Right.
He's got 2.
Right?
I mean, Trent Dilfer's got a ring too, so.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Right. No.
Sorry, Trent, in case you're listening.
Quiet back there, Robert.
There's not one person that I've heard more that it's so funny. It's like, Trent, just give your ring back.
Hey, no, that's not fair because
I've heard people say that.
That's not fair. He still was part. Just because I get it, when a quarterback isn't the catalyst for the reason why you won, we start saying that.
Right.
But somebody had to be under center, right?
Yeah,
someone had to say "hut."
They did.
615-737-1045, our number. We go next to Eric in Nashville here on the show with us. What's up, Eric? Eric,
good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a good 4th.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Eric.
I know y'all talk about unbreakable records, and I think, Kayla, you brought up Nolan Ryan and the 7 no-hitters. Nobody's going to touch that.
Yeah.
Now if pitchers go 6 innings, it's a great outing, which it is, but I don't know. I grew up watching Greg Maddux go complete games almost every outing, so it's just kind of weird to see, but that's one. But I would say, I know Bonds technically has it, but I think that one could be, but you got to have a lot of longevity. You got to play at least 20 plus years to be close to that. That one's possible, but not. I don't see that one. Ricky Henderson's stolen base record could be interesting with the bigger bases because guys are stealing a lot more bases now.
Yeah.
But that one. But the no hitters and the stolen base records are probably the 2 most. Well, the no hitters not going to happen, but the rest possible. It just depends. I mean, the athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, but still never know. But
sure.
That's all I got. Y'all guys have a good rest of your day, good weekend, and even though it is only July the 5th, I still don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama.
That's right.
What a way to end the call.
We're from Tennessee.
And he sticks the landing.
I think Ricky Henderson's stolen base record goes down.
By Enrique Bradfield Jr.
No,
Boom.
by Ronald Acuna Jr.
Hey, maybe.
I'm worried about no. I think Ronald just stole his 41st base of the season. He's the first player in MLB history to have 20 home runs and 40 steals before the All-Star break, literally in the history of baseball. And with only 3 pickoff attempts allowed and the bigger bases. I think that one actually is one of the most breakable records.
Yeah.
In Major League Baseball over the next 20 years.
How about Brett Favre's 305 INTs? Who breaks that one?
You got to play a long time, too.
Zach Wilson, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get signed to the Jets. I think Zach Wilson was on his way, wasn't he?
No. See, Zach Wilson, that's a Hollywood story in the making right there.
Oh, you think he's got a comeback in him?
Oh, most definitely.
Really?
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's going to come in. He's going to come in right in time when Aaron Rodgers rides off into the sunset to pick up the pieces and keep this thing rolling. He'll have a
Look
couple
at
of
that.
years mentored behind the old wizard. Because
Exactly.
he'll get because you know Aaron how he goes through the season.
yeah.
That hair will get longer, the beard will
will.
get down to his chest again, and he'll be looking like like a young Gandalf.
Like a motorcycle, remember?
Yeah, exactly, like a progressive commerciall. And then guess what? He's going to be teaching Zach Wilson the whole time. Zach Wilson will have emerged like a phoenix.
I'm not going to say that there's not a chance that happens. I'll keep my eye on that, Brad.
Well, this will be Brees Hall's team by then anyway. But either way,
right.
It's fair. 615-737-1045, the number. A team we like to poke fun at, besides the New York Jets, the NFL version of maybe this team, had another big catastrophe over the weekend. A team in baseball and a team in sports that is perhaps the most lovable losers, maybe, has another tragedy coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Coming up in hour 2, a big topic on your Tennessee Titans. Who is the most underrated player on this Tennessee Titans roster? We'll get to that coming up at 7:20 this morning. 615-737-1045 is our number, and we play Lonesome Loser because the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim once again have lost Mike Trout. Of course.
We just jinxed him.
So Mike Trout was placed on the 10-day injured list with a broken left wrist over the last 48 hours. And then again yesterday, third baseman Anthony Rendon was removed from an 8-5 loss after fouling a ball off his leg and having a shin contusion. That one's not as serious. But the fact that Mike Trout once again is hurt, Shohei Ohtani is hurt again, and Anthony Rendon, two of probably the two best players in baseball once again, hurt for an extended period of time.
Welcome to Anaheim, where you go to die.
But you know
Again,
what?
we were just talking about Mike Trout. I was like, I swear this is the most we've talked about Trout on this show.
Yep.
And we were like, he's just doing his thing over there. He's okay with just being him and, being one of the best players in the league. And then this happens.
Like Will
He's
said,
injured
though.
again.
But almost typical, right?
I know.
But it's unfortunate because we know how strong his bat is. We know what a player he is. So you have to always have one foot in, right? Because he's Mike Trout. But then you kind of expect the inevitable to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say he's Zion Williamson?
He's better than that.
He's
at least on the field.
Yeah.
But in terms of, they played about the same amount of postseason games.
True.
Nice.
Which is crazy to think about.
He's been in the league a lot longer than Zion has too. Like Zion, just I think from the get go, you knew that was going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Right. I think we could all agree on if you really thought about it.
Yeah.
The injury thing was in your mind with him.
It's fair. Mike Trout entered Monday's game hitting .260 with 18 home runs, 43 RBIs in his first 80 games. Not quite up to his normal standards, but still decent. And the Angels went into yesterday 45-42, third in the AL West, trailing the division-leading Rangers, which is kind of wild, by 6 games. According to Sportsline, have a 12.5% chance to make the playoffs, despite having the 2 best players in the sport. Maybe not the 2 best players anymore, considering what Ronald Acuna Jr. is doing in Atlanta. Maybe 2 of the 3 best.
Yeah.
But still, it's interesting that this is a guy that should be one of the most marketable American superstars in sports. Yet he hasn't been because he plays when East Coast people are asleep, which is always working against those guys in Los Angeles, unless you're LeBron and you transcend all of that. Or unless you're a football player and you just play at, 4:25 Eastern instead of 10 p.m. Eastern, like a lot of these guys.
No, that's serious. The Pac Pacific Coast Conference or whatever it is, the Pac-12. I don't know if it's 10, 12, whichever one we're doing now.
It's going to go back to 10 next year. Yeah.
You've got to admit that does have an effect.
Oh, yeah.
Not only I'm not saying on their standings, but how we see these teams because we're not staying up until, midnight after we watch the full day of college football to watch Washington play the Trojans or something like that. It's just hard.
They haven't helped themselves either because, there's no product there really. Now, USC kind of coming back, but they're going to the Big Ten. There hasn't been product there to watch either. So that's the other thing. Nobody's going to stay up for a game that's not
fair.
really that great to watch.
That's fair. Because like Willie just said, if LeBron James is on the ticket, then people are going to stay up to watch.
I mean, 100%.
When I went to school at Washington State, it was like Reggie Bush era.
Okay. People were going to stay up for that.
That was whoa. That was big time football, right?
Yep.
I saw a question the other day. If you're taking one college running back in their prime.
I saw that too.
Reggie Bush, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Adrian Peterson. I think it's an easy answer.
No Ricky Williams?
Just out of those 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was it just college or?
Yeah. All 4 of those guys in their prime. Saquon Barkley at Penn State, Zeke at Ohio State, Reggie Bush at USC, Adrian Peterson at Oklahoma.
AD.
I think it's either AD or Reggie Bush.
I think it's Reggie,
I
but
think
that's
it's
because I
Reggie
watched
Day.
him.
Yeah. Well, no, I
A lot of him.
I think it's Reggie Bush too. I think the clear fourth option is Zeke.
Yeah.
Because Zeke kind of had the magical run at the end of his career. He didn't have the full career
Yeah.
to the level of those other guys,
Zeke was
in my
good.
opinion.
The fifth
but he
option is
wasn't
Tim
like
Tebow.
that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Guy still haunts me.
Oh my goodness.
Running back with the playing
great.
quarterback.
Lamar Jackson.
Don't do that
Here
to
comes
Lamar.
Robert Walsh.
Hey, come on.
Don't do that to Lamar.
There he
Don't do that to
goes.
Lamar, right, Robert?
They should have threw Melvin Gordon in there over Melvin Gordon. I think had one of the more
Over
impressive college careers out of any of those guys.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair.
Yeah, but see, now we're looking at how they became as pros.
Exactly.
Looking over
I
into-
know.
You got to keep the divide there.
It's
Exactly.
hard not to do though,
Facts.
right?
It is.
Yeah, that's my payback at Robert for a text that got me to jump out of bed this morning. Do we want to talk about this, Robert?
I don't care. I got bit by the alarm bug where I did everything right yesterday. I didn't get too drunk at my backyardy. I didn't stay up late. I was in bed by 10 o'clock. But the one thing that I also did not do was turn my phone off silent. So when I woke up and I saw it was light outside, I was terrified. And I came to work in what I was wearing to bed. Almost came here in my underwear. So
Wow.
you guys are all
Thank you for
lucky.
not
Should
doing
be
that.
considered lucky that I'm not on Zone TV. Or that this show did not just go. Yeah, if I was not here, you guys would all know because it would run into the update and it would just go, your sports update. And it would just be that loud ass music
Yep.
and nobody would be talking. So
So see that has happened once in the history of this show on a
Woof.
dark
Oh,
day.
really?
Wow.
And we'll tell you the story off.
Wow.
I'd like to hear it.
I had to learn how to produce in real time once.
Alrighty then.
Robert, were you sweating before your feet hit the floor?
I'm telling you, when I've had this like anxiety about being late for things since
Sure.
college.
Yeah.
So I wake up and like almost every morning and go,
Yeah.
See, the only reason why we are outing you and talking about this on air is because you were here in plenty of time. Like you did make it work. I
Yeah,
applaud
for
you
sure.
because
You did.
you were here still before I was.
and I
This morning.
always prep what I have to do
Right.
the night before
Uh-huh.
just in case something like this happens.
Sure.
Smart.
So Batmobile worked. You know, we got out of there. Alfred
Absolutely.
wasn't worried. We made it here. We're all good.
Very smart.
I never was totally worried. The text you sent me wasn't super alarmist.
What
You
did
were
he say?
still
What did he say in the text?
you were before BR time, which is Buck Rising time.
Rolling in here. It's just-
Literally as the update music is playing when Buck usually pulls in the parking lot.
I sent Will, and I quote, "Had my phone on silent or something, LOL. I'll make it, but it might be tight if you can have the titles ready." That's what I
Title
said.
of the show on 104.5 The Zone
yeah,
TV.
that's a pretty like chill. I'm trying to get my you know what to work now.
I feel like I can.
Right?
I could get to work as long as I didn't leave at like 5:40. Like if I left at 5:40, I would be late.
Everyone has a time where it's like, okay, this is my latest possible time.
I generally leave the house at 4:45. So
Oh,
like
wow, yeah,
I just
nice.
super late today. But it's after a holiday. They should have gave us this day off too.
I agree, Bert.
Come on, you
Take
know
that,
it.
management.
Strike.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't think that I need to say this at 7:54, and
That's
then
right.
they hear it.
Right. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to jump in. Coming up next, July 4th always is a day to remember the legacy of one of the all-time great Tennessee Titans as we celebrate the life of Mac 9. Steve Air McNair with one of his former teammates, Brad Hopkins, filling in for Ramon Foster this morning. Coming up next as Hour 2 begins on Ramon K. Littlewell.
7:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. We'll start with some good news from over the holiday. New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced that he is in full remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma. The veteran tight end made the announcement some 3 months ago after he was diagnosed following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while he was visiting the team for free agency. Death, taxes, and Joey Chestnut, the most decorated champion in competitive eating, did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on his way to victory, falling 14 shy of his record 76 dogs that he set in 2021. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics have explored a sign-and-trade. The Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams. And in the major leagues, the Atlanta Braves fell to the Cleveland Guardians 6-5 in the first extra inning, thanks to a David Fry walk-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday morning on a rainy Wednesday in Music City. Welcome to hour 2 of your Wednesday morning. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. When trust matters, count on All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Professional garage door installation and repair from a locally owned and family-run business. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. 615-737-1045 is the number. And we are anxious for your participation. As coming up in 15 minutes, we discuss the most underrated player on this Tennessee Titans roster as we take stock of the good, the bad, and the in-between. And all the storylines heading into training camp that is just 3 weeks away.
Woo.
We're already there at the doorstep of NFL football. With Brad Hopkins filling in for Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh, I'm Will Bowling. And guys, July 4th in Nashville, ever since 2009, has been a day to remember the life and the legacy of Steve McNair, who passed away July 4th, 2009. I can't believe, Brad, it has already been that long since Steve McNair was taken from us far too soon, and it gives us the opportunity to remember one of the all-time greats.
25 years ago, we moved here.
Yep.
And he was obviously one of the guys that came from Houston with us. Quick Steve McNair story.
Yeah.
Steve was a rookie when we used to go to Trinity University in San Antonio for training camp,
Okay.
just like you're talking about. And, of course, Aaron McNair coming in was highly touted. People knew who he was. He had some celebrity to him. Weren't sure how he was going to react to being a professional, right? Mm-hmm. So Jeff had a ranch kind of rented out for us to be able to go and hang out and have like a barbecue. Just kind of let your hair down, hang out a little bit, take the pads off, just kind of get with your boys. And he had this pen set up. And in this pen, it was in a grassy area, right? In the pen, they put these little piglets. And they let the little piglets run around the pen. And then they made all the rookies get into the pen with the rookies, with the piglets. And you couldn't get out of the pen until you grabbed a piglet to get out of the pen. So most of the rookies are running around acting like they were trying to grab these little piglets, and they're not even coming close to even catching any of these little piglets. Right?
Yeah.
So they're
They're
just standing
fast.
there. Yeah, a piglet is extremely fast, especially when it's like it's running for his life and things, right?
Right.
So Steve's standing there, and I promise you, Kayla, Will, he had on some white Air Force Ones. First off, he's stepping into this.
That's
ground
great
thinking,
you
oh
remember
my God.
this.
Oh yeah, I remember because he always wore white Air Force Ones.
Okay.
So he had the white Air Force Ones. He steps into the pen. He walks up behind the pig and grabs it up behind his back leg and holds it in the air, sets it down. We're like, no way. Do it it again. Get back in there, rookie.
Wow.
He gets back in the pen, walks up behind another little pig. It doesn't even hear him coming. Walks up behind another little pig, scoops it up by the back of the legs, and sets it down.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness sakes.
Just a good old country boy.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
would have a beer with anybody.
Yep.
And you could put him in any situation, and it really wouldn't faze him.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time we were losing to the Giants up in the Meadowlands, and I think it was like final couple of minutes of the game, and they just scored a touchdown or something. So we're down, and we need to put together a drive to win the game. And so it's a TV timeout. We're all just kind of standing out there in the huddle, and Steve's getting a play on the sideline, and they're talking. He just kind of comes strolling in with his hands in his hand warmers, and we're all just looking like, "Golly, we're about to lose this game because there's no way we're going to go this far and score a touchdown." He looked at us all and started laughing. He said, "Well, the long faces." So it made us all kind of laugh at that moment, like, it's kind of funny. Steve's like, "We're down,
Yeah.
we're going to get our butts kicked. It's raining outside. It's just bad, right?" Sure enough, we went down there, put together a drive, and scored and win the game.
Look at that.
That's just that was the calming
Yeah.
presence of Mac in the huddle that
Sure.
gave you the confidence that you could go out there and do what needed to be done.
Yeah.
So
The pride of Mount Olive High School, where he was a four-sport athlete, Steve McNair, a star point guard, a long-distance and sprinter runner for the track team, a shortstop and outfielder who was drafted by the Seattle Mariners in the 1991 MLB amateur draft.
Let's go.
And, of course, a quarterback and defensive back, leading Mount Olive to a state championship in his junior season where he had 15 interceptions in 1 year as a defensive back. Had a career total of 30 INTs. I mean, you could go through just an incredible list of his achievements, guys, and not even get to the Tennessee Titans and to the Oilers. Like, his resume began when he was in high school at Mount Olive, pursuing scholarship offers from LSU, Miami, Nebraska, and Ohio State, and chose to go to Alcorn State.
yeah,
Yep.
you usually give up something. If you're a great passer, you're usually not that good of an athlete.
Right.
If you're a great athlete, you probably use that more to escape problems than standing in the pocket and trying to find an open receiver, right? So you escape as a runner by and large more than anything else. Steve was probably the most balanced quarterback I'd ever played with, Yeah. Even Warren Moon, my rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
He wasn't running anywhere, even though the pocket rolled to the right and left, running a run and shoot offense.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
He still wasn't getting on down the field like Mac 9 was. Taking on defenders, that
Sure.
kind of stuff.
It's like he wasn't afraid.
Not even a little bit. He played hurt more than, he should have. But
Definitely.
Sure.
that's the way he played the game. Kind of reckless like that a little
Yeah.
bit. Matter of fact, we're reminding Josh Allen nowadays, hey, man, you ain't Steve McNair, man. Get your butt down. They made these rules for a reason because you're the one that sells tickets. Get out of bounds. Get down. But Steve showed up every week, pretty much.
Did he ever let on that he was hurt around you guys, or was it just something that was known?
Oh, heck no.
It was just known.
You know who Steve McNair's best friend was in the building, who's still there to this day?
Yeah.
John Takahashi.
Takahashi.
He spent so much time with
I
Talk,
love
just in the
him.
training room. He would chase Talk all over the training. Those two's relationship was
best.
incredible to watch.
How do you not love John?
You should
though?
get, if we ever, if I'm ever in here again and we come around another
Yeah.
anniversary of Steve's passing, you need to get John on the phone because that dude right there can tell some stories about Steve McNair and some stories about Steve McNair that think about this. As much time as Steve spent in the training room, okay, icing, stem, all this stuff, getting ready for the week.
Right.
I can only imagine what those conversations were like. Early in the morning, before anybody's there, late in the afternoon when everybody's gone. You know what I mean? Just really kind of getting some insight into how people think. I could imagine Talk's got some incredible stories.
Sure. I can't believe he's been there that whole time.
The
I knew he had been there a
whole time.
while.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when his hair wasn't gray.
Dude, he never doesn't have a smile on his
Bro,
face.
I called you bro. Sorry.
I don't care.
You're right. 1,000%. He and a
real.
laugh
know.
We would actually make a bet to who could make Talk laugh the fastest. Like
fastest.
you just look at him and you start laughing.
start
It's just the way he was. He just such a bubbly person to be around. I love John Takahashi. So did Steve.
The best way that I can sum up Steve McNair's career from the fan perspective and from the generation I'm in of Nashville sports fans, and I say all the time that people around my age and people that grew up in this city were kind of the first generation of fans that have always known Nashville as a two-sport professional city. For my family, it hits a little bit differently, right? Because it was college football and college basketball and Vandy, Belmont, Lipscomb all the time in Nashville. And, of course, Tennessee football and SEC football as well. But the best compliment that I can give Steve McNair is he was the first pro athlete that you wanted to be in the history of Nashville pro sports. He was the icon. He was the guy that playing football at recess, you wanted to put on your Steve McNair jersey, roll out of the pocket, be directing traffic down the field, and then juke 3 guys out and get a first down and run for 25 yards. I wanted to be Steve McNair as a kid. Everybody at recess, everybody wanted to be Steve and Eddie. And Steve, as the quarterback, was kind of that guy. I mean, you talk about the 2003 co-MVP season with Peyton Manning. I mean, he was the first iconic pro sports figure in Nashville to me.
Yeah.
To a lot of
see
people
that.
will.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I remember those days so fondly, and I've still got a beat up Steve McNair jersey somewhere in my parents' house, probably.
Sure.
You know what? I don't know that you could handle today's quarterback like we handled Steve McNair. I say we like I had anything to do with it, right?
Sure.
So Steve was drafted in 95, didn't play till we just got here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chris
yeah.
Chandler was the quarterback that led us to, I think, 3 8-8 seasons. And subsequently, when he left us, he went to Atlanta and took them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Went down there and saw that in 33. So he wasn't a bad quarterback. We used to call him Crystal Chandelier, though.
Why?
Nice.
'Cause he
Oh.
wasn't very tough.
Oh.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay. Opposite of McNair's
exactly.
toughness.
Crystal
Literally.
Chandelier and
Yeah.
Eric McNair. But Chris is a good quarterback. Good dude. I liked him a lot. But the way that they brought Steve along to where the 3rd pick of the draft could wait.
Sure.
How often do we see that nowadays? We're just going to sit him a couple of seasons until he's ready. Are you kidding me? The media would have been all over that. Why isn't he in the lineup?
As that high of a pick?
That high a pick?
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of what you've seen with a little bit with the Niners and Packers, right? But those were kind of some different circumstances around it with Trey Lance, Jordan Love, right?
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Trey, because of injury, is going to lose his job and the opportunity because
Brock Purdy.
Right. Mr. Irrelevant became relevant. Bounced him out of a job.
But you're exactly right. They're not waiting anymore to do that. You see your quarterback, usually if he's there, you take him and he's playing at least the first or the second year.
No one expected Bryce Young to sit long.
Yeah.
That's why he was labeled
Right.
the starter. What Frank said, okay, we're moving up. It's like 2 weeks in, bro. Of
Right.
course we need to. But what about C.J. Stroud? Is he a starter? Of course he's going to be a starter.
Sure.
Right.
These are some very high picks. Now imagine back in the day if they'd have handled C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young like they handled Steve McNair.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to start, what's the kid's name that's been down there doing stuff? The quarterback.
In Houston?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Shroud there?
No, the one they've been playing.
they've been playing.
Well,
Davis
I'm-
Mills.
Yeah,
Davis Mills, right.
I was having a
Hey, we're just going to have
brain
Davis
fart,
Mills
too.
in here for a couple of seasons
Yeah.
while C.J. Stroud gets up to speed, okay?
Right.
She'd be like, you must be kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Right.
John McClain will come out of retirement to
Yeah.
write stories about that.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, coming up next, we continue the Titans conversation going from past to present. Who is the most underrated player on the Tennessee Titans roster right now? We share our thoughts and take your phone calls on that question at 615-737-1045 right here on Ramon, Cable, and Will. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Do you need an extra outlet or two? Do you have wall switches that just don't seem to always work? Or is your car charger not performing efficiently? Well, these all seem to be very simple issues, but they are rarely do-it-yourself projects. And maybe you've tried to do it yourself and it just made the problem a little bit worse. I've been there. We've all been there. Well, dealing with electricity requires the expertise of an experienced professional, and you need to call the experienced pros over at Lee Company. Their electrical team can solve any problem you have safely and efficiently, and they got a great deal for you because right now you can enjoy $20 off an electrical service call for a limited time. We've all got those lists. Summertime, a great time to go ahead, take stock of all the issues going on around your home. Get this figured out all at once with a $20 off electrical service call for my friends at Lee Company. You can call them today at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com to schedule an appointment. That's 615-567-1000. Lee Company, all you need. Wednesday morning at RKW is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors with Brad Hopkins filling in for Owen Foster. And Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is how you join in on the discussion. With former Titan Rocky Boiman joining the show at 8:20, Rhett, Bryan at 9, and Midweek Motivation to close us out. We asked the question before the break, guys. Who is the most underrated current Tennessee Titan? You've got some legitimate options on both sides of the football here. I think, quite frankly, from the national perspective, even Derrick Henry is probably pretty underrated, considering the attention the Titans get compared to others in the NFL. But Brad, we'll start with you on this one of the one player you think is the most underrated on this Titans team right now.
Follow me here, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going with undrafted Aaron Brewer.
Okay.
I love it.
I like it.
Texas State. His agent, Bryan Ehrlich,
Yeah.
got him into camp, and he did the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, think about this. The only team he's played for in the past 3 seasons are the Titans. This is an undrafted guy, right? Yes, Aaron did lead the team in flags, a lot of penalties, and he has struggled in pass pro. He gave up 4 sacks and 4 hits on the quarterback, okay? But Nicholas Petit-Frere, he gave up 5 sacks. Ben Jones gave up a couple. Dennis Daly gave up 12.
Right.
So what are we talking about here? But he's one of the better run blockers up front because he's very strong and he plays with great leverage. Now, he's also your most durable lineman the last season, playing in all 17 games. 469 run plays, 562 pass plays. Now, I thought he might have a chance in the NFL because he's very smart. He's extremely athletic. And I worked with him before the draft.
You're right. Yeah.
Trained with him for about 6 weeks. And even though he's on a 1-year deal, for him to make over $6 million, Kayla, Will, in the past 3 seasons, that's remarkable. And I'm extremely proud of this guy. So I say all that to say, an undrafted kid from a program like Texas State is starting in the NFL and is still held down that spot for the past few years amidst some changes around him. So you got to give him some credit for being at least competitive enough to keep that job. Now, of course, this is a new season. He's only on a 1-year deal, and we'll see where that goes. But if you looked at him from his size standpoint, I mean, he's like 6'2", actually.
Yep.
6'2", 265, 270. So he's usually overmatched when it comes to like the physical size of some of the interior defensive line he's going to be going up against. But there's got to be something about him that qualifies him to be a starter in the NFL coming from that far distance.
Yeah. And I think we've had some underrated centers in Titans history, and just Ben Jones, going from Ben Jones. I mean, I think he was underrated when you look at it as from a grand scheme of things, right? Now you got a guy like Aaron Brewer who is coming in and having to fill in for somebody like that who has been here for so long, has been that rock for so long. But what I love about Aaron Brewer, too, just being around him, just even during camp, is like his attitude, like he's ready. He's really taking it upon himself to be the rock on that line. He said, I'm spending hours in the film room with the quarterbacks and doing everything I can to know that I'm going to be ready. Like, he's taken this job so seriously. I love it. And I think he's a leader. I think that's a guy like these guys are going to listen to. Like,
I love playing. I love coaching him. I really did.
He seems awesome.
He was just a very attentive person, like you said, a student of the game, Kayla, consummate professional, trying to get better. So, and I know that like I said, he's had his struggles.
Sure.
But if you think about it, how far he's come to grow and have the opportunity to play at this level, I think he's totally taken advantage of it.
Don't you think the center suits him probably
Absolutely.
the best?
Like you said, the first guy with his hand on the ball.
Yeah.
Gets the play started, puts the line in the right direction, right? Because he's smart enough to read the defense, where the line's going,
right,
what their responsibilities are, and you're the lead man to get things going.
It seems like his just level of football intelligence is something Mike Vrabel really values.
It's got to be something, right? Sure. This is a super competitive league, right? And if you can't do it, then somebody else will be able to do it. Well, how is he being able to step in that role and still at this point right now, be considered the guy going into 2023? Must be doing something right.
Yep.
If Mike Vrabel didn't love him in terms of his personality and his toughness, with his reach and his size, I don't know if he would have been given as many opportunities as he's had if he didn't kind of vibe and gel with Vrabel on that level.
Right.
And I think Mike Vrabel now believes, and this is a larger discussion on just the philosophy of this Titans team as they rebuild under Ran Carthon. I'll use the buzzword rebuild there. Is that Mike Vrabel and Ran Carthon are betting on the fact that you give them guys who are willing participants, who are going to be on the field healthy, and they trust their coaching staff and their entire player development staff to mold them into something that is a starting caliber player in the National Football League. And it seems like that was the issue they had through the pandemic draft, is they had a bunch of guys who, A, aren't available because of injury, or B, like I'll just say Isaiah Wilson, weren't available because they didn't love football enough.
Yeah, and he's still the guy amidst the coaching change, too, at that position.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Good point.
they're trying to figure it out as far as who's the correct person to guide this team. And we talked about this, Kayla, the other day, just how pivotal that coaching position is, getting these guys. You were talking about Jalen Duncan.
Yep.
And the development that he needs to go under to give himself a shot as a sixth-rounder. But if you think about it, this team has been able to uncover those kind of diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
I think more consistently than not.
I would agree
using
with
younger
you on
players that, how did A.J. Brown, make it to the second round? Somebody saw him.
Yep.
We got lucky with Will Levis. Think about that. That was the first rounder that fell to the second. So we're pretty opportunistic and been able to take advantage and find guys that we think might have a projected future. That might be Jalen if he gets his technique right, but there is, like we talked about earlier, the responsibility of good coaching to get them in the right position.
Yeah. And that was the thing that undid John Robinson's tenure here, was that if his round 1 picks were as good as his day 2 and 3 picks, he'd probably still be the general manager.
Yep.
I mean, the Jayon Browns, the Kevin Byards, the Jonnu Smiths, Nate Davis, Amani Hooker. It's incredible the amount of day 3 talent this team has added, yet the day 1 talent was the most disappointing part.
Bad.
The two unfortunate situations, obviously sending AJ to Philadelphia. He then plays in the Super Bowl the next year. Bad luck. And, of course, the idiot out of Georgia.
Isaiah Wilson.
Yeah, so.
Well, and you can argue, I'm going to put Caleb in there because, look, I love Caleb as a person. I really do, and I hope he gets a chance. But that was the one person, I've said this so many times, Brad. This is the first time I said this to you, but that's the one guy I said, do not draft. I just said, you can't draft him. And he was the one person John Robinson drafted, and look where we are now. Right?
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
So, Kayla, who is your most underrated Titan?
Yeah, and you might have to get out your rosters because he actually didn't play last year, unfortunately, due to an injury. Y'all need to watch out for him because there's a reason why you talk about seeing something in a guy. Chance Campbell, the linebacker out of Ole Miss.
Interesting.
Watch out for Chance Campbell, okay? First of all, good bodied size guy in terms of linebacker. Like, we see a lot of these smaller linebackers right now. And Aziz Al-Shayer, who is going to be the guy who's going to be very important on this team. But there's a lot of opportunities at the linebacker position. Cunningham's gone. Obviously,
David Long
is gone. But I have seen him take some reps with the 1s and 2s in OTA's minicamp, and I really just like the tenacity of this guy. I like the work ethic of this guy, and unfortunately got hurt last year, didn't get to play. I think a lot of people forgot about him, that he was even on the roster. He started at Maryland, then transferred to Ole Miss, where he played 13 games in 2021, led the team with 109 tackles. Really at the SEC level, right? I mean, you're playing in the SEC. It's no washed up league there that you're playing in.
Right.
And then when he came in, I think people were really excited when they saw him in that first year in training camp, and then in the preseason before he got hurt. This is a guy who has a chance to do something out there, especially with the lack of guys right now that for sure are starters, right? You have Luke Gifford here. You've got Monty Rice, who also has a big opportunity that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. But keep your eye on Chance Campbell. I just think he has what it takes. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy and can he beat out some of these other guys?
Interesting. Okay.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There you go.
He was a 6th-round pick.
It's hanging there, Robert. Come on now.
There we go.
Taking a chance on
Chance.
Chance.
That was my dark horse there.
I like that one. Taking
there
a
you
chance.
go.
My dark horse.
I'm going to go with the most obvious answer, in my opinion. It's Danico Autry.
Mm-hmm.
I think Danico Autry is the most underrated Titan when you consider the fact that he had 8 sacks last year in 12 games and only made 8 starts because of injury. He has 17 sacks in 29 games as a Tennessee Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the versatility of Danico Autry is what flies under the radar because without Harold Landry last season, with injuries at the outside linebacker position, Danico Autry was playing out of position for a lot of last year when he was healthy.
Right.
And he was switching from playing beside Jeffrey Simmons in that front 3 to being an outside linebacker. And the production dropped off a bit, but not substantially. I think what he is able to do next to Jeffrey Simmons, I think if those two guys are completely healthy, and Brad, we've talked about this with Ramon quite a bit, that oftentimes it's not a guy in the contract year who has that breakout season. It's the guy who feels settled and comfortable because they just got paid.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the right kind of personality, and I think Jeffrey Simmons fits this category, Jeffrey now, Ramon is the one who's made this point originally. I'm curious what your reaction to this is. He thinks Jeffrey is going to have his best season of his career now because he got paid.
That's what happened to me.
Right.
I mean, when you start getting recognized as one of the more highly compensated players at your position, you want to live up to that billing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want them to be like, oh, my God, they just gave this dude the bag. He's a bum.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the way he's playing. You don't want to have that connotation about you. So you go out there and you play at the level that you feel is on par with you making that kind of money. I was the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history, just like Taylor Lewan was.
That's right.
Sure.
And I started picking up my game because people started recognizing that fact.
Absolutely.
They're like, this dude's the baddest boy in the jungle. He's the highest paid right there. Okay, let's see if you're the highest paid. And they put their hand in the dirt next to me, and I prove it.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I am.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. One of the most unheralded players that we haven't talked about, the three of us to this point, and I'm sure that there may be even somebody that calls up and has the same thought that I do. Chig Okonkwo, are you kidding me?
I would agree.
I
It's
think
not even
he's getting some attention, though. Like,
Is he though?
Yes. I think he's getting more attention than what you'd think.
I'm saying underrated because I don't think that people even that follow the AFC South that closely recognize exactly what a catalyst he was last year.
Yeah.
Okay? And in his position to be the same guy this year,
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet the other day, yesterday. It said, I saw DeAndre Hopkins at BNA. And I thought, initially, oh my gosh.
I heard he was at a pool party as well.
It wasn't even him. It wasn't even DeAndre Hopkins. And he was at a kiosk to rent a car, and it said Hertz Boston. So no one's really actually looking at all the clues to say, this dude ain't even here in Nashville. But it would have been cute to see him here. Now, that might have affected what Chig's role is, of course, when you have DeAndre Hopkins. But then again, I would think that he would actually find that beneficial having a guy of that caliber in.
Yeah.
Because while the defense focuses on him and slowing down Traylon Burks, now he underneath quietly is getting stuff done just like he was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So
and to add to, and I'll go back to Danico real quick, just from everything I've seen from Danico last couple of seasons. Like when he is not there, when he is not on that front, there's a difference. He's a quiet guy in terms of how you see it get done, but the minute you take him out, there's a difference. And I think that's the biggest thing about Danico is he does it quietly. He doesn't get all the praise, even when he was in Indy. But when he's not there, you notice.
Yep.
So
I noticed him rushing against us as a Colt.
Yeah.
Shoot, we had our issues keeping anybody out, but
that was his other 9-sack season was as a member of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Robert Walsh, who did we miss that you have on your list?
I think there's a lot of guys on this defense that could qualify for this answer, whether you go with Harold Landry or Rashad Weaver. But the guy I got to go with is Tier Tart.
Yeah.
He does a lot of things that no one's going to give him credit for. And last year you saw him get an interception. As a defensive lineman. You saw him drop into coverage. He's very multiple. Just the cleanup aspect of it. He's going to make sure that everybody else on this defense's job is as easy as possible, whether it's Simmons, whether it's Azeez, whoever it is, he's going to do the cleanup. But if we're answering truthfully, I'd have to go Morgan Cox because he's the only former Raven on this team.
Shut up.
Oh, my God.
Actually, you know what? I accept because he's a VFL.
There you go.
Morgan Cox is a Tennessee native and University of Tennessee volunteer, so I accept.
And to pile on the Chig praise. I've noticed that a lot of the praise he's getting, not that this is real, is in the fantasy football world.
Yeah,
a
he
lot
is.
of people in the fantasy football world think Chig is going to blow up.
Yep.
So I take that for what you will. It's usually a bunch of white noise that doesn't mean much, but the fantasy football community is very big on Chig.
Tier Tart, another college free agent in 2020
There you go.
with Aaron Brewer.
Yep.
Right.
Another guy that has found his way to signing a restricted free agent deal after not even having been drafted. The guy was cut at one point in time
Exactly.
in September 2020, right? And still
Yep.
found his way to be a cog in the middle of that defensive front seven. That's nice. I
My
like that.
favorite Mike call from last year. Look what I found.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's totally true. You know what? The Chig thing. I think that when you're talking about fantasy, it's like you're trying to find that diamond, that little guy that's the sneaky guy. Oh, you need to find this guy right here. You know, no, he's actually garnering some attention, and rightfully so.
Yep.
Coming up next, there was one submission in the F&M Bank chat for most underrated Titan that I want to ask. Is Ryan Tannehill underrated by the Titans fan base? Coming up next on our Bone Kale and Will. Wednesday morning at Ramon, Kayla, and Will as we wrap up the first half of the show. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. We'll get to a big story in college sports coming up on why the end of the NCAA might be closer than you think based on some recent meetings. We'll talk about that here in about 15 minutes. But we asked the question here in hour two of who is the most underrated Tennessee Titan. And when you say Ryan Tannehill's name, you get very strong opinions for and very strong opinions against, both for, I believe, legitimate reason. But I asked the question before the break, guys. Does the Titans fan base underrate Ryan Tannehill? Yes or no?
Kayla.
Go for it first.
Abso-flippin-lutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it that loud again. Abso-flippin-lutely.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to this show, I don't think that's a mystery because I think we've all kind of put our opinions out there, how we feel like he's underrated with this fan base, just because I think he's the easy guy to target in terms of when things have gone wrong. Oh, it's a quarterback. 3 interceptions in that playoff game. Like, that will haunt him for the rest of his Titans career, no matter what happens.
Listen, when the Titans went into Arrowhead with Malik Willis and almost came out with a W, you're thinking, man, what could they have been if Ryan Tannehill were healthy?
Yep.
Same thing when they went to Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
They were just a couple of games away, in my opinion, of being forced, their hand was forced because of injury to put Malik Willis in the lineup before he was ready to be in there. This team would have performed completely different had they been in there because, in my opinion, Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, they work in unison with one another. Mm-hmm. Ryan Tannehill needs the support of the ground attack.
Right.
Derrick Henry needs the support of someone that legitimately can beat you in the secondary to get back guys out of the box, right? It's hard to hand off to your running back with guys standing around him that have different colored jerseys on. And that was more of the case when Ryan Tannehill wasn't under center because you didn't have a legit arm to threaten you with.
Sure.
So now when Ryan has the ability to hit the open receiver and pull that thing down when necessary, a la Daniel Jones, there's a dual threat there that we really haven't even tapped into. Why do I keep saying we like I'm a decision maker over there? You get where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that, like back in 2018 when Ryan left Miami, he had the worst year of his career, basically. Mm-hmm. His grades were in the 40s, abysmal. He hasn't seen below 75 since he's been here. And that was last year through an injury-riddled season. He was in the 80s and 90s his first couple of years here. Why? Because he had the complement of, play calling by Art Smith.
Right.
A lot of run-heavy emphasis, which, if you're not really one of those guys that needs to have everything go through you like some quarterbacks think, narcissistically, then you're okay with letting your running back be the complement that you need to be successful because that's what they were. In tandem, Tannehill and Derrick Henry were the type offense that won the AFC South. Mm-hmm. And you can see how they are exclusive for one another.
And look, all of that is very true. And I think that he is underrated. I'm going to stick with that. But I do believe, specifically this season where, they went to the playoffs, they're hosting the Bengals, he throws those interceptions. That had been an issue that season, right? Taking care of the football for him. Now, he corrected that. I mean, he had to get help when it came to, not just help, with what he was doing on the field. He is the first to say, I had to go get help after that season. But he also did everything he could do to try to be the guy this last season. Unfortunately, he was going on 2 bum ankles. And really, they had to drag him out. They had to drag him out because he was going to play. He wanted to be there for his team. So I put that into it too. He's altogether a little bit underrated just in terms of who he is as a quarterback. The leadership stuff, what he's done on the field. And let's not forget, you mentioned the athleticism. This was a wide receiver turned quarterback. Very athletic. We say Tana wheels. That's no joke. When that guy gets going, he can use his wheels.
There's a reason why he finger rolls when he scores a touchdown, because this guy's an athlete. I mean, think about it. In 2020, Will, he was 16 yards shy of 4,000.
Yep.
2021, he was, let me do the math here, 46 yards shy of 4,000 yards. Of course, last year, a little more injury riddled, 2,500 yards.
Right.
But what could a complement of a full season do for this guy? A lot, in my opinion, especially with the targets like a resurging Traylon Burks.
Yeah.
Kyle Phillips, he put some weight on, right?
Yeah. Stay
And of
healthy.
course, I'm not saying DeAndre would make or break this offense, but it certainly wouldn't
Sure,
hurt
it'd
to have him in it, right?
I think at this point, Ryan Tannehill is always going to be judged until he changes it by the 3 interceptions against Cincinnati. And yes, it's probably unfair, but that's the NFL.
Sure.
That's the quarterback position in the National Football League. So I think 2 things can be true. I understand fans who are ready and willing to take the next step and go from best in the AFC South to best in the AFC or best to the NFL. I understand and can empathize with that. I think we all can, even those that will defend Tannehill tooth and nail. But the only question that matters about Ryan Tannehill that's ever mattered is he good enough for you to win a Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
And I think fans believed that was yes in 2020, and that answer changed after the playoff game against Cincinnati in 2021 and early 2022.
You give Ryan Tannehill A.J. Brown, what did he do with him?
He had a quarterback rating of over 100.
Worked out well.
Yeah.
I'd say he got A.J. the bag. Even though the Titans didn't want to pay him, Philadelphia saw the worth, and he proved that.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so you give him somebody like A.J. Brown. What can you do with him? And you still got Derrick Henry, who's going only into his 8th season with a little over 8,000 yards already under his belt. Come on, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll say most confidently, last year's Ryan Tannehill was overrated, or was underrated, not overrated.
Right.
I think Titans fans did not appreciate enough what Ryan did when he was healthy with a patchwork offensive line and without A.J. Brown for the first time.
The worst offensive line in the league.
Yeah,
Oof.
easily.
And just think about knowing that you were having a rocket come at you every time. Like Double D was going to get turned every time. Like think about that.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
whew,
What can you say?
that's a mind game right there in itself.
Well, and this year he'll have a new offensive coordinator as well. We'll see what Tim Kelly can do for him as well, too. 615-737-1045 if you want to react to any of that. And coming up next, why the end of the NCAA is closer than you think it is. Why Charlie Baker, the new head of the NCAA, is looking at Plan Bs for something the NCAA should have had Plan A for about 5 years ago. As we continue into the second half of the show on RKW.
Love that call. 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. We'll start off with some good news from over the holiday. New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced that he is in full remission from Hodgkin lymphoma. The veteran tight end made the announcement some 3 months ago after he was diagnosed following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while he was visiting the team in free agency. Death, taxes, and Joey Chestnut, the most decorated champion in competitive eating, did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on his way to victory, falling 14 shy of his record 76 hot dogs that he set in 2021. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics have explored a sign and trade. The Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and the Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams. And in the majors, Atlanta Braves fell to the Cleveland Guardians 6-5 in the first extra inning, thanks to a David Fry walk-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Rolling on into the second half of the show. Welcome to your Wednesday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. When trust matters, count on All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Professional garage door installation and repair from a locally owned and family-run business. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. Alongside Brad Hopkins filling in for Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling on a show that is flying by.
Getting Brad is kind of an upgrade, though, if you really think about it, because Brad was an all-pro.
803.
Brad was an all-pro, man.
That's right.
What did Ramon ever do? Who did he ever beat?
But we're O-line pride, baby. We're all together.
That's true.
We now have 2/5 on this show of an NFL offensive line.
I know.
We've got a tackle and a guard.
I could probably slide out and chip somebody.
You could on the way out. Yeah, you could.
I'll go at center.
There you go.
I'm a
Kayla's
lot
snapping.
stronger than you think, too. A lot stronger.
I'd put you out there in the X.
Oh, you think I'm that athletic?
I think you beat press coverage,
Perfect.
get open
I'm up
immediately.
for the challenge.
You like a Tyreek Hill. I could see you
I'm
like
up
a
for the
cheetah.
challenge.
Pew!
That's right.
I love it. I'll just broadcast for whatever this team. RKW Radio. Welcome. 615-737-1045 is our number. We've got Rocky Boiman who will join us. We'll add a linebacker to our roster.
Yeah.
Coming up in about 15 minutes. Guys, the end of the NCAA is closer than you think it is. On the 2-year anniversary of the NIL era, good piece at On3 by Eric Prisbell on Monday afternoon about the NCAA's NIL subcommittee has been tasked with exploring a plan B in case Congress does not act by passing a federal NIL bill. This is noteworthy because new NCAA president Charlie Baker, in one of his first orders of business, is trying to find a way that the NCAA can regain its credibility and authority over NIL and over state governments that have essentially circumvented their authority. And New York became the newest state this week to pass legislation that New York has even gone a step further to say that the NCAA can't even open an investigation into NIL happenings within colleges in its state.
Wow.
So as they look at plan Bs for ways to have authority, I think plan A is their only option. Federal legislation that the NCAA is on board with is the only way that the NCAA doesn't fly by the wayside at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The conferences have wielded a lot of power themselves. Now you're talking about the states that have to do with state-funded schools in a lot of instances, right? They're dealing with federal money. So the state sees the income that they're making or could make from these possible dealings, and they're saying, hey, you know what, NCAA? What do we have use for you for?
Exactly.
What are you doing? Are you regulating anything?
They're
players are getting
trying.
paid nowadays, so
Right.
it's not like you're discovering something that could actually hamstring somebody. You know, I mean, maybe drug offenses. I don't know what they could actually be policing now that makes them relevant.
Well, and you're right. And that's really what they've kind of gone to over the past several years when they've been on the decline, is they've gone to the investigations, or we're trying to get anything that we can do to say, hey, we're still here, even though I think in reality, everybody knows that they're dying quickly. And really, like you mentioned, I don't know what else they're here to do, because this is college football. Athletics in general are going on a whole different journey.
Here's an example. San Diego State decides to leave Mountain West, right? Mm-hmm. The deal doesn't get cemented, so they're like, they don't really necessarily leave the conference. The deal fell through, so they're like, well, we're gonna still stick with the Mountain West. The Mountain West is saying, no. You said you were leaving, and you owe us an exit fee. So where would the NCAA step in a situation like that? What do they have to say about, or what would they say to, I guess, regulate the situation going on between a school and its conference? If they don't have any say in that, then what governing body are they? What good do we have them for if a team can say, if a school can say, guess what? I'm joining the SEC. USC, or I'm joining, these other conferences to create regions of football that obviously will compete against each other. What is the NCAA doing about any of that? They can't. Again, Texas says, hey, you know what? We're going to go over to play in the SEC.
And that's what's happened. I mean, look at all the movement. This is all over the place. I mean, the Pac-12 is still trying to decide if they're going to disintegrate or if they're going to have teams join them. Like, and the NCAA, do you think they have anything to do? No.
You can't say anything.
No.
What are you going to say?
The source who spoke to On 3 on condition of
Anonymity.
That's always the toughest word.
Anonymity.
Because of ongoing discussion, says that the meetings do not reflect a pivot in strategy by the NCAA. So the NCAA will continue to aggressively lobby Congress for a federal NIL bill, according to this piece at On 3, while the subcommittee, known as the NIL Working Group, explores potential backup plans. I guess the backup plans are revenue sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, a salary cap.
Sure.
I mean, those are the kinds of words the NCAA is going to have to make more attractive to schools and to NIL collectives. But as far as the NCAA is concerned, school-based NIL collectives and things like the Volunteer Club and at Tennessee that have been so forward-thinking are technically against the letter of the law for the NCAA, but according to state law, are perfectly legal.
The letter of the law, the NCAA itself, I mean, I think that gets dissolved. The National Collegiate Athletes Association, once Congress puts their little influence in this whole deal, they're the minors. Because to qualify as a professional, it is performing in an event of which you're getting compensated for it. That's called a pro. So now you're talking about the minors. So these aren't collegiate athletes per se. They are minor league players in their respective sports.
Right.
That's exactly what they are. So, what is the NCAA doing now? Making sure they get their degrees? I mean,
Go back to school.
That's not why they're there.
The thing that continues to be the most interesting to me in all of this discussion is where basketball and March Madness fits in it. Because that is the moneymaker for schools and for the NCAA to stay where they are is March Madness.
Yeah.
Because that is an NCAA-sponsored championship that you're talking about schools with a rich basketball tradition just giving that up in order to make exponentially more money in football and control things on their own. So that, to me, is where you're not just going to jump the ship immediately because I think as far as football is concerned, like if you could dissolve football into the CFP being its own association, yet still play in the NCAA basketball tournament, schools will pick that and would do it tomorrow. But I don't think that's possible right now.
Trying to be like Notre Dame.
Independent.
Sort of, unless you're talking about basketball.
Right.
Because at this point, I mean, the CFP does already sponsor its own football championship. The NCAA does not officially endorse and sponsor the college football playoff.
But they do basketball.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Yeah.
But they do basketball. They do everything else.
Yeah.
FBS football is unique in that.
And you don't think that they could just go off then on their own right now, you're saying? Like they still need to.
I think everything's a possibility. I think if that was possible, it may have already happened. We'll see. But I do think the end of this, instead of being 10 years away, might be 5.
Yeah.
Because we originally believed maybe 2035 for all of these things. I think it could be 2030. It could be 3 years. I mean, I just think once you get Congress involved, and Charlie Baker is going to be a wild card as the first year NCAA president. I think it's fascinating at this point.
Should be interesting. That's for sure.
615-737-1045, our number. We go next to Micah in Boston as we go around the country. Here, what's up, Micah?
Hey, I usually would call in a little more often, but 2 weeks I've been at camp, and now I'm on a family vacation in Boston for this week.
Woo!
Love it.
Nice,
Let's
Micah.
go.
But I wanted to do the Titans' most underrated player. I was going to say that Chris Moore, I think, is a really underrated player. Last year he had 548 yards, and I think he could really prove a lot this year and prove a lot of people wrong. I mean, not many people thought much of it when they signed him, but that's kind of with this whole wide receivers room. They kind of all have something they need to prove to people, and I really think Chris Moore could be a big bright light in this Tennessee wide receiver room. So thank you for taking my call. I always love listening to your show, even when I'm not at home. But, yeah, great job, guys.
Love it.
Micah.
Thank you,
I
Micah.
love
That's
Micah.
strong right
Appreciate
there.
the call.
Dude,
That's so strong.
he hit on every point, and that is accurate. You're not going to hear a lot about Chris Moore. You're just not. I mean, you're not going to hear a lot about a lot of those wide receivers unless you're Burks. But he's come in there, and I'll tell you this much. The guy knows what he's doing. He's a veteran, right? And if there isn't a D-Hop that's added to this roster, these guys are going to be getting the ball. Now, how much can they do with it? What can they do with it? That's to be seen. But I like Chris Moore. I think he's a little bit of a dark horse.
A bit of a dark horse. Spent a lot of time on practice squad when he was in Houston, even before that in Baltimore. Kind of a guy that I think when he has the opportunity, tries to make good on every single minute that he has, right? Every rep, which is smart. You don't survive 8 years in the league just, being okay. You know what I mean? So he's at least found that little niche that at least keeps him on a roster, right? And, right now he's pretty far down between Kyle Phillips, obviously Nick Westbrook, Keenan, and Traylon Burks will be your starters. After that, Racy McMath, and Colton Dowell, seventh-round pick.
Rounder.
So there's a pretty stacked receiver room. We'll see if he can actually get maybe some snaps during preseason that
Who
give him an
makes the
opportunity.
most of it, right?
Exactly.
Coming up, Rocky Boiman, former Titan, now Cincinnati radio host, will join us. His perspective on the AFC South and Titans storylines. Does a D-Hop addition make the Titans a genuine threat in the AFC South? And a really interesting storyline and offseason in Cincinnati as everyone waits for Joe Burrow's extension and the other moves and dominoes that are waiting to fall as Cincinnati tries to get a deal done with Joe Burrow up there in the land of bad chili and food. Coming up, the land of good baseball this offseason. Rocky Boiman joins us on Ramon Kalen Will.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson with our friends at Window Nation. Okay, so this weekend, definitely we felt the heat, and that's going to continue here through July. This is when it really ramps up. So that also means the AC is probably amping up in your home. I know it has been in mine, and I don't usually turn up the AC. That means high energy bills, folks. And so it is time to beat the heat with Window Nation's summer sale. It's a good one. You can save thousands today. No money down, no payments, and no interest for 2 full years. Plus, Window Nation giving you a bonus here. They're going to give you 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. Everybody likes free. So for so many of us, it's a chance to protect and increase the value of our home today. You can call them at 866-90-NATION. And you're maybe wondering, well, how much can I save on my energy bills? Well, up to 30%. And that's a significant amount, especially, like I said, this time of the year when we're cranking up that AC. If you don't believe us, Ramon and I, which you should, you can probably just go online because they have over 10,000 online positive reviews, comprehensive lifetime warranties on the entire window, including glass. They will not do you wrong. 000 for 2 full years. Get this, no money down, no payments, no interest for 2 full years. So do yourself a favor. Do your energy bills a favor. Call 866-90-NATION or just check them out at windownation.com.
Hour number 3 on a Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome into RKW, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Alongside former Tennessee Titan Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh, our producer, I'm Will Bowling. And joining us to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, you can hear him in Cincinnati on 700 WLW on the Eddie and Rocky Show. We add another former Tennessee Titan, Rocky Boiman, our guest here on a beautiful Wednesday. What's up, Rocky? How are you, man?
Brad, Will, Kayla, I am great. We celebrated our great nation's birthday yesterday. My son's football team we have our first practice here tonight, and
Nice.
Bengals training camp is like 21 days away, man. Life is good.
Nice.
I was going to say, Rocky, life is even better in Cincinnati this summer. What in the world has gotten into the Reds?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is a diehard Reds town. I mean, 100%. I mean, lots of long-suffering Reds fans. You know, the last time they tasted glory was back in 1990 when I was 10 years old, and it's been a lot of heartache. But again, it's even in radio, like the priorities in terms of sports in this town, even during all those dark years, is still the Reds, then the Bengals. Bengals have been creeping way back up. It might be even right now, but you know, those fans have hung in there, and this Reds team is unbelievable. A lot of young guys. It's a team that fights. They're just an enjoyable team to watch. One thing my dad would always tell me, you know, growing up watching the Big Red Machine was, he was like, look, they were never out of it. Like you would always tune into the game and you'd stay to the end. You'd listen to the end because they would come back and win it. And that's what this team does. I think it's like 28 or 29 come from behind victories. The young guys, Ellie De La Cruz. It's been phenomenal. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, Rocky, with those Bengals who start training camp around the same time the Titans do, what has the conversation been like around that team as you wait for a Joe Burrow extension? You've got T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, Joe Mixon, a lot of things that hinge on what the number looks like over the next few seasons for your quarterback. How unique of an offseason has it been up there this year?
It has. It's been quiet. It's been really quiet, in my opinion. I think because everyone's kind of waiting on the Joe Burrow contract to go down, and I don't know when that's going to happen. I think a lot of folks, including myself, thought it might happen in May or June, and I don't know what goes into all these things. I know there's a lot of moving parts, and they're waiting to see who gets what and that sort of thing. And meanwhile, of course, Lamar Jackson, signed that big deal, which is going to make Joe Burrow happy because he's probably going to get more. But outside of that, I think it's going to happen because then, as you guys well know, that the dominoes got to fall because then it becomes, okay, what happens? What do we do with T. Higgins? Jamar Chase is certainly going to be here. Logan Wilson, a great linebacker, one of the most unheralded players on this entire team. He's probably due for a contract extension at some point, but it all is going to happen after the Burrow signing. I imagine that'll be sometime within the month, but we shall see.
Rocky, I'm going to tell you what, man. I'm watching Joe Burrow at the white party.
We're like glued to this video.
All these things, not only has his celebrity changed the way we think about the Bengals, but obviously his performance has labeled the Bengals a contender year in and year out. You can say that. Just from your perspective, someone that has, at least watched this franchise from afar, even though you were playing against them, I'm sure that there's probably some heart sentiment there. But just what he's able to do as far as changing the minds and the hearts of those fan faithful, give us some insight into what he's actually meant to the city of Cincinnati.
Brad, he has single-handedly raised this Bengals franchise from the doldrums. I mean, single-handedly. I mean, this team was for the longest time, even when I was playing and before and after, the Bengals were usually a team that you didn't want to go to as a free agent. It was notoriously a cheap franchise and just a franchise that underwhelmed. Now, here and there, in 1988, they go to the Super Bowl and, a couple other good teams here and there. But for the large part, it's been a lot of disappointment. And, again, it's just amazing what one player can do to a franchise. I mean, he's changed the culture. He's changed the attitude. I think he's changed how people outside of Cincinnati perceive this Bengals franchise. It's really hit. That single signing is the greatest thing the Bengals have ever done, certainly in the last 25 years, no question. I was saying this the other day on radio. In terms of a person too, like he is. I mean, fans are absolutely nuts for him. And I said this the other day, all he has to do is win a Super Bowl, and I think he will overtake Pete Rose as the single most popular dynamic sports figure in Cincinnati history. I really think he is almost at that level. I mean, my God, they had OTAs like 6 weeks ago, and he came out with long hair and a headband. And so now all of a sudden everybody in Cincinnati is wearing a headband and all this stuff. It's like, it's crazy. It's like, it's like one guy, but they like his, he's a very confident guy. He obviously produces on the field, which is the most important thing, but he's a perfect guy you want as your franchise quarterback too. He says the right thing in the press conference. When they lose, he takes the blame. When they win, he gives the credit to everybody else. He says the right thing. He's confident, borderline cocky a little bit, which I think fans, especially younger fans, love. And again, all it's missing is a Super Bowl for him, and he will be a literal god in this town.
Rocky, I remember walking on the kiosk walking on the concourse at Nissan Stadium, and somebody was walking by me with some Joe Burrows on. And I call them Joe Burrows because that's the glasses that they named them, the Joe Burrows. And they were selling them.
Cartier glasses.
Yes, they were selling them on our concourse in Nissan Stadium, selling out, basically. I'm wondering this. You're obviously touched to the college game. Despite Urban Meyer's championships that he won in Florida, will he go down as the dumbest coach in NFL history or college history because he sent Joe Burrow packing to LSU to win a championship because he said he couldn't play on his roster? Showed him wrong there. And, of course, his derailing of Trevor Lawrence for how many ever, snaps he was able to, inflict on this poor guy. He might go down as one of the biggest dummies if ever.
Well, look,
being tongue-in-cheek, of course.
I got to, I love Urban Meyer. He recruited me to Notre Dame, and so he kind of helped make my dream come true there. And his college, the national championships and the things like that. And look, of course, he had some failures along the way. I think for him, it was all his offenses were always a system where the quarterback ran the ball, and J.T. Barrett was a phenomenal player. Dwayne Haskins, a phenomenal player. Both those guys, good runners. So I think it was just a bad fit. But, to your point, yeah, you got a guy that's literally, wins the Heisman, does all these amazing things. He's right there. I just think it was something that didn't really fit for him. But I'm sure Urban Meyer right now, there's days he sits back and goes, I wonder what would have happened if we had thrown Joe Burrow in there a little bit more because, again, since the guy's set foot on this turf here in Cincinnati, he's been phenomenal.
Well, Zach Taylor has also been phenomenal for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think sometimes a little underrated in terms of just the national media doesn't talk about him as much. When you compare him to a guy, and it's very different here in Tennessee, the type of guy Mike Vrabel is, but also a very good coach, has not beat Zach Taylor head-to-head. For when you look at Mike Vrabel, like what on the outside do you see of the type of coach he is and in the stuff that he's done here? Also because there's been 2 years back-to-back with so many injuries.
Well, first, Kate, yeah, in terms of Mike Vrabel, I think he's a phenomenal coach. And that everybody I talk to, everybody in the NFL I talk to, anybody that knows football loves Mike Vrabel. And I think he runs a great culture down there in Tennessee. I think that maybe the question some would have is, he's a defensive-minded coach in this age when offense drives the bus, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's, and then look, it also, if you're comparing Mike Vrabel and Zach Taylor, every coach is better when Joe Burrow is your quarterback. And there's been some, I think you guys have had a talk show or two dedicated to quarterback play in Tennessee. So there's a little bit of, if Joe Burrow is a Tennessee Titan, boy, Mike Vrabel is the greatest thing ever, right? So now with that said, I do want to talk about Zach Taylor as well. He was a guy that, he came in with literally no resume. He was Sean McVay's quarterback coach. And he was under that umbrella, and that was literally it. He had spent time actually here in Cincinnati before with the Cincinnati Bearcats as an offensive coordinator one year, and they had a terrible record. So it was like, oh my God, why are we signing this guy? Other than the fact he hung out with McVay a lot. But since then, I got to say, he has done a phenomenal job. The culture here in the Bengals locker room has been fantastic. I think that how he's ran the offense has been great. One thing I think it really points out to me, because again, 3 years into his tenure, I'm like, I don't know if this is the guy, right? But
Sure.
after that, he's continually started to prove it. But one thing you never hear from coming out of the locker room is, man, we don't have good direction, right? I mean, Brad, you know that, right? That was stuff would get out if the players didn't like the coach, or the coach didn't know what he was doing and didn't know how to run a meeting, and the culture was bad. That stuff would leak out. But it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't here in town. So if it's not, you got to say, hey, look, maybe the guy actually knows what he's doing, and I think he does a phenomenal job. From an in-game standpoint, making adjustments. That was always Marvin Lewis's bugaboo, is he kind of came in with a good game plan, and then when the Bengals did this and the other team would switch and then do that, the Bengals didn't really have that counter punch. Now the Bengals under Zach Taylor have had that counter punch, and I think it's made them very, very effective.
Surprising to you at all that the Titans, while they do have a new offensive coordinator in Tim Kelly, are kind of still sticking with, they've got Derrick Henry, they're sticking with Ryan Tannehill for right now, and then you look at the wide receiver room, and I'm sure from afar, you're like, who's in that room? I mean, Traylon Burks, the second-year player, is supposed to be the guy this year, but there's not a lot of names after that.
Yeah, I just think a lot of it comes down to identity. Titans, especially as long as Derrick Henry's on that team and is effective as he has. I mean, was the MVP 2 years ago, right? So he's still getting it done. I just think that their identity is they are a running team.
Yeah.
And, it takes a long time to get away from that. And especially if you've got a player of that caliber and you don't know how long you're going to have him and he's going to be that great of a player, I think you're right. It's hard to just kind of totally change your philosophy around, we're going to get this quarterback in here and we're going to bring all these wide receivers in here and we're going to change all these things up. Well, that's not how a team is built. It often takes years to build a team the way you want it, to build the defense and the scheme the way you want it, and the offense and the scheme the way you want it. And Tannehill, I guess the frustrating part with him is he's been just good enough, right? He's never going to be a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen. He's never going to be that, but he's also never going to be Baker Mayfield, right?
Right.
He's like in that frustrating part where it's like, God, he's going to be efficient and he's going to help us win some games. But he's a guy that you have to surround him with great talent. I think the difference between a Mahomes and a Burrow is, they can elevate the guys around them. I think Tannehill he's a guy that needs to be elevated by them. You know what I'm saying? And I think from the Titans standpoint, though, they say, again, he's efficient, and as long as we have Derrick Henry, that's kind of the identity of our offense.
Rocky, I want to get your perspective on the division itself from a 30,000-foot lens. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, but I find that hard to maintain when you've got the likes of Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, of course, Joe Burrow in that division, rather. Give us your thoughts about the division itself overall.
I think it's one of the most competitive divisions in the entire NFL, Brad. I really do. Because, again, you talk about the quarterback play. You got Joe Burrow, who we've talked about. You got Lamar Jackson, and, he got the big contract, and he's healthy right now. Deshaun Watson, I totally expect to have a bounce-back year. So you got three of the best quarterbacks right there in that division, and I think the Ravens were a team last year that was really, really good. I mean, look, they almost beat the Bengals in that playoff game with their third-string quarterback. It took a Sam Hubbard 98-yard miracle fumble return for a touchdown for the Bengals to win that game. So the Ravens are a real team, and how they do things. I know they got Monken in as the new offensive coordinator, and some things are going to change there. Kenny Pickett with the Steelers, I really liked him and how his career has developed. I think he's a guy that's going to take some big strides this year. The Steelers go heavy on defense again in the draft. So, no, it's a very competitive division. It makes it a lot of fun. And I think the Bengals are still, if I had to put money on any team, I think they're the team that's going to come out of that thing, but it should be very, very competitive.
Rocky, on the way out, we were just talking about the story over the weekend that the NCAA and Charlie Baker, the new president, are looking for plan Bs if there is not a federal mandate on NIL and these state laws continue to be different and try to make the NCAA gain its own credibility and authority again, which it clearly no longer has. Do you feel like the end of the NCAA may be closer than we think as things like this transpire in Congress?
I do think that, but I've felt that way for a long time.
Sure.
The NCAA I just feel like football is such a big animal when it comes to compared to all the other sports. I think there needs to be a person, an entity, a group, a board, whatever, that is in charge of just college football. And that way we can get, when there's a suspension or anything like that, we can get that right. It's not just like, kind of random like it seems like it is. NIL, that's just a hard thing to put back in the bag. You know what I mean? It was rolled out. It was like all of a sudden one day you couldn't pay any player, and then the next day it was kind of a free for all. There was no guardrails. There was no regulations on it. I don't think NIL is going anywhere, but I do hope and believe that there will be some sort of restrictions, put on that thing. I hope there's a way that NIL can be a way that's not right now. That the genesis, kind of the thought of NIL was always this: a player, goes to college, no one really knows who he is. He plays well on the field. He makes a name for himself. And all of a sudden, his name, his image, and likeness has some value to it. So, okay, let's pay him some money. Or if you're a car dealership, let's pay him $2,500 to come sign autographs. But it's not been really as much about what name you've made for yourself. It's become a tool in recruiting. And when you got these collectives now, and the collectives aren't on the same page as the athletic department, or on the same page as the head coach, it's just a total F show is what it is. And I hope the NCAA or somebody, probably another group, can come back in and put some guardrails on that thing and just make it a little bit tighter.
Yep.
Rocky Boiman, former Tennessee Titans linebacker, has been our guest this morning on Ramon, Kalen, Will. Great stuff. And Rocky, as we scout other divisions and other teams in the NFL, really good insight this morning. We appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rock.
Guys, thanks so much. We'll do it again.
Thanks,
Yes,
Rocky.
sir. Absolutely. There's Rocky Boiman with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. And I think there's certainly some things there to react to, and we'll hit the other headlines that we've missed so far through the third quarter of the show. But again, it's incredible how a city can go from being losers to winners just because their quarterback is cool and wears cool sunglasses that quickly.
Still a loser.
And don't forget,
sorry.
he's from Ohio. So anytime you got a guy
That's
coming
what it
back
is.
from Ohio, man,
Right.
When
Athens.
he won the Heisman, Kayla, what
Yep.
did he say? For all those kids that had a
Yes.
dream in Ohio,
Absolutely.
you can be.
You know I covered
Me.
it in high school, right?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Bright blonde hair, Joey.
Oh,
Bright blonde hair. Go
There
look
you
it
go.
up.
See, if he
Nice.
was ugly and won the Heisman, I think he doesn't pay the pretty tax. The people that are pretty don't pay that tax in
Right.
society.
Yeah, hot
Yeah.
privilege.
I think that he
Right.
has hot privilege. If it was an ugly dude that won the Heisman, I would agree.
Hey,
Let's
Robert,
save it for after the break.
He was not hot in high school.
How
Go
bad
back
is
and
Joe
look.
Burrow's hot privilege? 615-737-1045. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Rest in peace, Mac Miller.
Yeah.
Gone too soon. Robert Walsh, spin of the hits. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling with you. Rhett Bryan coming up in 10 minutes. Very excited for our trip down Titans memory lane with Rhett B this morning. Mm-hmm. So I think a trend that I sometimes like and sometimes hate in sports right now, guys, are the boom of sports documentaries that we have seen since The Last Dance. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a good era of documentaries, but sometimes there are subjects in these things that I don't need to know more about. Like, say, Patrick Mahomes and the NFL quarterback documentary that's coming out on Netflix. How about a 10-episode show on Jerry Jones that Netflix has reportedly bid just under $50 million for?
It better be good.
What was that?
That's like my disgust.
I think I'm getting some Hugh Hefner vibes with that.
Me too. A lot of Whataburger vibes because you know he's a Whataburger enthusiast. Mm-hmm. So you'll have a lot of scenes at Whataburger.
Think of how far we just went in a matter of seconds. That's going to be a pretty interesting series.
I thought you said water booger at first.
It might have came out that way. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Sorry, Whataburger.
You're good.
Have you ever had the sausage, eggs, and cheese taquitos?
From Whataburger?
Yeah.
No, I just love the fries.
Phenomenal. Yeah, the fries are,
Oh, I love those things.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. Whataburger could have put a better location than the one that they did way out there. Are you kidding me?
What is that about?
I get it. Off of Old Hickory, you're going to give Hermitage the only one in town, if I'm right. But why so far off the freeway? It takes 10 minutes off the freeway.
The honey butter chicken biscuits hit so differently. At
Also,
like 1 a.m.
While we're piling on Whataburger, there is a blueprint for success, right, in the fast food game for Chick-fil-A.
Sure.
Chick-fil-A is the most efficient, the most likable. Even if there's a line out to the parking lot.
No. You just said it right there, Robert. Most likable. Because when you go there, you're not going to get a funky attitude. When's the last time you pulled into a Chick-fil-A and got attitude?
Never.
You don't.
Never.
You know why? Because they compensate their workers enough to say, hey, look, leave the attitude in your car.
Right.
When you check in, we don't want to have it.
Right.
When you go to Whataburger, they have the 2 lines, and it is still just as inefficient.
Yeah.
You will wait in line. I'm like, your menu is so limited. It's chicken or burgers. Like, it's not like they have to mix it up at all. And I feel like anytime I go to Whataburger, it's going to take 30 minutes. I've started ordering on the app, and I just come 45 minutes later and ask if my food's ready.
Because they're nice, you dive off into that line.
Yep.
If they were jerks, you wouldn't do it. Listen, it's not like Chick-fil-A has cornered the market on yummy chicken, right? There's better chicken out there.
Sure.
But why do we subject ourselves to long waiting lines to get that chicken? Because we're not going to roll out of there ticked off after we do it.
I would let those men and women run our country. I would.
Yep.
If my local
Who's
Chick-fil-A,
the Chick-fil-A
manager
president?
ran for governor, I would vote for him. Or anything.
Yep. Whoever that is, we're putting them on the ticket.
Anyway, we get to this because Jerry Jones has an NFL docu-series that is coming out about him. Netflix playing just under $50 million. The deal is not officially done, but Netflix won a bidding war with ESPN. It focuses on the 1990s Jerry Jones era. That I'm more okay with.
Oh, see, no. What they're doing is they're tapping into the Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They think they're funny.
So I'm more okay with at least hearing about the way Jerry Jones rose to power and prominence. I'm much less interested in like an all access on him currently because I feel like we already hear from Jerry Jones too much as it is in the present day.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated with how he built the empire that he has built. That is interesting to me.
But he's one of the only billionaires that basically put himself, his persona, into his team.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
too much.
Robert
Too
Kraft
much.
might be on that borderline because we do hear from him
Yeah, but
now
he's
and
not
then.
controlling
Exactly.
situations. He's not constantly
Exactly.
talking to the media when moves are made. Jerry is.
You know that Jerry made us sit on a runway for 4 hours in Mexico City?
Really?
We played the Cowboys in a preseason game down in Mexico City,
When was this?
1994.
Okay.
Goodness.
They brought too much stuff. No, actually, they bought too much stuff down there to
Dallas?
put on Jerry's plane. Yes, the Cowboys did. So you know what they asked our plight to do? Hey, can you carry some of our stuff
you're
back
kidding.
to the States? And we said, okay, cool. As we sat there for 3 hours while they were loading their stuff onto our plane.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Sounds like Jerry.
Goodness.
Got into San Antonio at like 6 in the morning. The sun was coming up.
Jeez.
That is unreal.
Crazy. Coming up, fourth and final hour of the show is here already. Rhett Bryan joins us for his weekly visit, a trip down Titans memory lane with some of the best plays and performances by one Steve McNair, as we continue for 60 more minutes on Wednesdays. Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
Hey, good buddies. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Some good news from over the holiday. New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced that he was in full remission from Hodgkin lymphoma. The veteran tight end made the announcement some 3 months ago after he was diagnosed following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while visiting the team in free agency. Death, taxes, and Joey Chestnut, the most decorated champion in competitive eating, did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on the way to victory, falling 14 shy of his record 76 hot dogs that he set in 2021. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics have explored a sign and trade. The Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams. And in the major leagues, the Atlanta Braves fall to Cleveland Guardians 6-5 in the first extra inning thanks to David Fry's walk-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone, good buddy.
Welcome to the fourth and final hour of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. We're powered, as always, by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. When trust matters, count at All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Professional garage door installation and repair from a locally owned and family-run business. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. Alongside former Tennessee Titan Brad Hopkins, our capitalized J journalist, Kayla Anderson, the most interesting producer in the world, Robert Walsh, and the executive producer of Titans Radio, presented as always by our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. He is the one and only Rhett Bryan. Rhett, good morning. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. How are we?
Great.
We have a
Good.
good fourth?
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Ate too much, but other than that.
Fairly uneventful, which is good.
It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you get older like Brad and I, it's very good.
There were no fireworks. Ba-dum-ts.
Let me say something, Brad. By the way, 73 normally sits in this chair. 73 is having a little vacation. 72 is what comes before 73, and 72 has done a nice job filling in here, Brad
Absolutely.
Hopkins.
Thanks, Ramon. I'll let you out of the closet when I'm done here.
There it is.
That's what my
There
brother
it
said.
is.
Where's Ramon and what have you done with him? He thought I tied him up.
That's right.
Wow.
Family time, right?
It's been fun. Been another fast show. Mm-hmm. We had two more the rest of the week as well. We had the discussion earlier, Rhett, of hot dogs versus burgers at a cookout or July 4th situation.
Depends on the hot dog.
Okay.
Like I'm a big fan of Hebrew Nationals. Nathan's pretty good.
Yep.
And I got nothing against Ballpark or whatever, but it depends on the hot dog.
Sure.
But I probably lean more towards being a burger guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm alone in my hot dog pursuit. It's
Okay.
It's fine.
It surprised me a little because you're such a burger guy.
I am
you
a
talk
burger
about
guy.
burgers a lot, right?
Big time. I'm a hot dog, well, a golf guy also. Hot dog at the
Oh.
turn is like a notorious
Hot dog
thing
at the turn.
that will typically kill your golf game. I
Okay.
got a hot dog at the turn Monday when I played 18 and just striped like the best drive of my life. It was like, okay, I need to
that.
start.
Okay.
Did
always
you put
getting a
ketchup
hot
on your
dog.
hot dog, Rhett?
Absolutely.
You
Do you
don't?
really?
I
never
do,
this.
but I heard that was not the way you're supposed to do it. I thought it was supposed to be just mustard.
And guess what? I don't care.
Yeah. Ketchup, mustard, all of it.
Relish,
Yeah.
onions.
Just pile it on.
You
Chili.
relish the opportunity to put
Whatever.
Yeah,
Nice.
there it is.
We were doing so good.
Then we came in with
were.
dadjoke.com. Hey, good buddy.
Hot Dog at the Turn, by the way, is an incredible band name.
musical
You know
guest,
what it is?
Hot dog,
Hot dog
at the turn.
Hot dog at the turn.
Please welcome to the Bonnaroo upcoming band's band stage.
With opening act Back Nine.
There we go.
And closing act, Too Much Ketchup. That'll play coming up next.
Back nine, it sounds actually better than
Back nine.
back nine, you know?
Yeah.
Musical guest Back Nine.
This was how I was indoctrinated into working at this radio station. Was we would
By
just
doing Don Pardo voiceover impressions on Saturday Night Live.
I love it. All right, Rhett. So we've got more great sound of old school Titans radio broadcast and Tennessee Titans games that included number 72, Brad Hopkins.
That's right. So
I'm excited about this.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and I know you guys have been talking about this, and I'm so glad that Brad has been here this morning and this week for this, because clearly the anniversary of Steve McNair's death on the 4th of July, I've said it many times right here on the Zone. It's one of the worst holidays of my adult life. I can't imagine what it was like for you, Brad, being his teammate and playing with him for as long as you did. That day, it's weird. It was extremely hot. We had a lot of severe weather. We had tornado warnings in the area. And just after I had learned of Steve's passing, a very good family friend of ours, church family friend, as a matter of fact, their daughter had been killed in an accident on I-40 in Bellevue that afternoon and was, she might have been 20 years old. And so it was just all this, it was just bad weather. And I was like, all right, I'm done. This is 4th of July. I'm done this holiday. So I don't look forward to the 4th of July as much. Time has passed, and I still enjoy it. It's the birth of our country and all those things. But it's crazy to think it's been 14 years.
Yeah, because we were doing the things that you would normally do on the 4th of July.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrating our independence, having hot dogs, enjoying family, time away, that kind of thing. I remember sitting poolside at my wife's apartment complex. I was just introducing her to my kids for the first time.
Okay.
So we were hanging out at her pool, grilling hot dogs. And then I noticed that all the people at the pool started staring at me.
And you're like, what's this?
It was more than usual. So they're thinking, okay, every now and then some people see a big 6'5" black dude, and you're like, okay, he must play someplace, 300 pounds or whatever. But they weren't staring at me for that reason, and I knew that because I'd already been there for an hour or a couple hours. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting the text. And I thought, in my silly ignorance, he got shot. Okay, well, where is he at? Let's go down there and
Sure.
see he's okay. Make sure he's okay.
Right.
I never thought about anything malicious, about a murder. Accidents happen, right? Especially in this kind of at that time, sleepy little town.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't an accident. And the reality then set in that, not only did we lose a teammate that day, but, a certainly identifiable figure in the public had lost their lives in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, to Will's point earlier when he was talking about all the kids in his generation that wanted to be Steve, that had to be a surreal moment dealing with the fact that the guy that you wanted to grow up and be like just got killed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reality that for most football fans, it's not something you can deal with on a regular basis, but that was something that was our reality back then in 2009.
I know Frank Wycheck and Eddie George, I think, went to Mac's house to see Michelle and the boys. I don't know if you were involved in that, but I can't imagine how hard that must have been, and the shock and the awe and everything else. And for me, it was kind of a double whammy because where the murder took place is literally 100 yards from where I worked at 506 2nd Avenue South when the Zone, WGFX Gallatin, Nashville, was a classic rock station. And I worked in that building for 10 years. I mean, if I could throw a football that far, I could hit the place where it was that. So there's just all these things, and it stirs up emotion in me because Steve was an incredible teammate to you guys, I know. But he was good to all. He was good to me. He was good to Titans Radio. He was just a good person. But, yeah. So with all of that in mind, let's bring it up a notch and let's go back to some things that he did on the football field, because I remember hearing about Steve McNair when he was in college. And I'm like, I keep hearing about this guy from Alcorn State. The first time I ever saw him, because ESPN2 was kind of on the bandwagon of his Heisman campaign, and they started airing some of his games. And the first one I remember seeing was September the 10th of 94 when they went to UT Chattanooga and played the Moccasins. He had 647 yards from scrimmage, 8 touchdowns.
Wow.
Threw 8 touchdowns, ran for 156 yards on the ground on 13 carries. And I'm like, okay, One-man wrecking crew. So flash forward, and with the 3rd overall pick in 1995, he became a Tennessee Oiler, or a Houston Oiler at that point, and became Brad Hopkins' teammate. So let's go to the first highlight. And this is where some Mac magic happened as a Tennessee Oiler. This is November the 8th, 1998, at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the call here, this is pre-Mike Keith. Mike was the color analyst. The late, great Joe McConnell, who was the voice of the Chicago Bears and many other things back in the day, including the Purdue Boilermakers, is on the call here. It's 2 minutes remaining exactly. And Tampa Bay has just pulled within 24-22. Trent Dilfer hit Riedel Anthony with a 10-yard touchdown. 2-minute warning. Last 2 minutes, Mac Show.
And play action. Oh, he's got to hurry. And McNair gets away. He's at the 35. He's at the 40. The 45. The 50. The 45. He may go. He's going to score a touchdown. He's at the 15. The 10. The 5. Touchdown. McNair. Oh, my goodness. They blitzed. And he broke away from a tackler who was all over him. 71 yards for the clincher. And the air just went out of this announcer and the Ray J.
He called it the Ray J, the Raymond James.
Nice.
So it was a 3rd and 8th play at the Titans' 29-yard line, and you guys blocked. He did the rest, and you broke the back of the Bucks.
I did not block.
Did you not?
I tore my groin in the 3rd quarter.
I forgot about that.
I was sitting in the locker room.
I forgot about that.
I was sitting in the locker room watching Steve.
See, this is why Brad Hopkins is here.
Run that. Yeah, absolutely. I remember Eddie George making fun of me afterwards. He said I screamed like a girl.
Oh, my gosh.
I was blocking. I turned upfield to run after the ball carrier, and I just heard this. And it dropped me like a sack of potatoes. I mean, I hit the ground like I got shot in the groin.
Sniper
ripped
fire,
the muscle straight from my whatever's attached to your pelvis, whatever it is.
Right.
Had to have an X-ray done right there on the spot. I was done for 3 games.
Oh, boy, I'd forgotten about that.
Wowzers.
Sorry to bring up that poor memory.
I was thinking when you said Tampa, I was like,
like, I
oh, no,
wasn't
that can't be the
blocking.
one. Yep, that's
the
the one.
But that was the first Mac magic that you really were like, yep, there it is.
Yeah.
So let's flash forward to the end of the 1999 season, where he is certainly cemented as the starter at this point. January 23rd, 2000, matter of fact, in the 99 season. It's the AFC Championship game. 9 minutes plus remain in the game. 3rd and 1 at the Titans' 48-yard line, and Steve McNair does it again.
McNair looking deep, cuts up the middle. He can run 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, dives to the 1-yard line.
Like I said, run Steve McNair.
Good call, Coach. Steve McNair with just a brilliant run.
51 yards. Yeah.
Good call,
Well,
Coach.
this is when Pat Ryan was doing
Brilliant.
color, and he was like, he had obviously described that he should have some kind of a screenplay or some kind of pass.
Yeah.
And he goes, like I said, run, so that's the
really
two of them bantering back and forth. 51-yard run. That pretty much put the icing on the cake. The Titans would go on to Super Bowl 34. And if you're on Twitter, Brad just tweeted at me in the show here where it's a great shot of him and Frank Wycheck right just moments, milliseconds after they have dumped the Gatorade cooler on head coach Jeff Fisher. Jerry Gray back there, one of the defensive coaches, is watching. And the Titans are going to Super Bowl 34.
Wow.
Fantastic. And we continue the trip down Titans memory lane coming up next with Rhett, Bryan of Titans Radio, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Much more from the Steve McNair catalog, including a final drive in 2002 that still lives as a legendary moment in Mac 9's career. Coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Robert Walsh making the show happen. Rhett, Bryan in studio with us here with Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. So, Rhett, going through Steve McNair highlights, I was telling Brad in the break, I used to do what I thought was just a Steve McNair celebration. Every time I would score a touchdown of any kind, there could be where two or more were gathered and I was in an end zone, so which sparingly happened. I would do like the back of my hands against my head with which I guess I now know is definitely like a fraternity thing.
Sure.
Every time I would score a touchdown, thinking I was Steve McNair.
That.
Oh, you and thousands of other white kids in the stands.
100%. 100%. I was over at Edmondson Elementary School recess thinking I was just like him.
I remember in college how sacrilegious that was to do that if you weren't pledged Omega Psi Phi, if you weren't a Q, right?
Yep.
A Q
And then, of
dog,
course, every
baby.
time Steve did something when he scored a touchdown, he'd throw up the dog ears. And, of course, thousands of kids were imitating him. And so we'd be looking in the stands, all these kids doing dog ears and stuff. I'm like, dang, Steve, look at all these Omegas you got in the stands.
And the real ones know the real ones because when you roll up that jersey
brand.
sleeve, that brand's right there, baby.
That's right.
It's
On
not
the
a
shoulder.
tattoo.
Oh, no, it's a
No.
brand.
It's a brand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've
You
seen
take a
those.
hot iron brand to the arm. No,
You
it's
smell
it's
like
a
some hamburger.
It's commitment.
I believe Byron Young from Tennessee, the linebacker who is now an LA Ram, he's got a brand.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like you ain't getting off the Yellowstone Ranch kind of brand thing.
There you go.
So little did you know, Will, that you need a brand to be able to do that.
Yep.
So
Not great.
you got to pay the piper now,
well,
buddy.
Anyway,
I've got a clothes hanger back here. We'll get it heating up real quick.
There we go.
Shape it like a horse shoe, and we'll get it.
There it is. There it is.
Get your mind right, Will.
all right, Rhett. So we've got two more highlights.
Yeah. So yesterday was the anniversary of Steve McNair's passing, and
Right.
I like to remember some really good moments in all of this because what he did on the field was amazing. This one, it just it doesn't bring up a great memory because of the end result, but it's Super Bowl 34, and it's the next to last play. 22 seconds remain in the game. The Titans are trailing 23-16. And if you have seen those iconic photos where he is rolling out right and Kevin Carter and we believe DeMarco Farr, I think it's the other one, you think he's going to take a sack for a massive loss. They've got him by the jersey shirt tail, and he is literally a foot and a half off of the playing surface at the Georgia Dome. And that ain't what happened. Steve McNair makes it happen again.
McNair looking over the
Everything's
middle.
outside.
Looking to run. Now steps back. Rolls left. Rolls right. In bad trouble back at the 40. He gets away somehow. Fires downfield. There's Dyson. Dyson at the 10.
Timeout. Ball timeout.
He's tackled at the 10. The Titans ask for timeout with 5 seconds to go.
And we know how that one ended, but that was an amazing drive and a pivotal play to get them in range when KD brought that in for 16 yards and a first down in there. But yeah, that just because you thought, well, he's certainly going to give up a huge sack right here. Nope, not what happened. Not what happened. In fact, as a result, that is the play that Kevin Carter took the last play of the Super Bowl off. He was just gassed. And
That's why he didn't tackle him.
Yeah, right.
He had him in the dead to rights, but he was exhausted.
Till I take my last breath, as long as I'm here, I will tell you, if that game goes any longer than those last couple of plays, the Titans win it because the Rams defense had nothing left. Nothing.
We were running them.
No
I remember
doubt.
that. You can see it in their eyes too. After that play was made and Kevin couldn't get him on the ground, and that actually gave us life when Dyson sat down and found himself in that zone and was able to make that completion and then continue the drive. They knew that they were dead in the water at that point. I mean, even if you think about the series before, Rhett, go back to when Javon just got his hands on Kurt Warner before the ball was released. Had he not changed the trajectory of the ball, Isaac Bruce wouldn't have adjusted and came back and made that catch.
And we would have a different result probably.
What would this franchise be if we'd have won 34?
I'm going to tell you one of the main end results that I do believe personally that this would be is that your teammate Steve McNair would probably be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, if you look at his career stats and you look at Troy Aikman's, they're almost identical. In fact, Steve is better in a couple of career categories. I think touchdown to interception ratio for career and a couple other things like that. And the difference is Troy Aikman has 3 world championships. And I'm convinced that Steve McNair would be a serious candidate, maybe even enshrined in Canton, had you guys won that game. And I think Eddie George might have a chance at that, given that he's over 10,000 career rushing yards. That's just a couple things. And then, obviously, a Lombardi Trophy would be residing in Nashville. That's the biggest one. And, you'd have a world championship ring. And
at some point, the cameras got me right in the face as I was walking off the field with all that ticker tape on my bald head that wasn't for me winning the game. I remember that sucked.
I'm sure.
And I think it encapsulated that very feeling that I had walking off the field. Just like, you're kidding me. To work this hard, you're supposed to win when you work this hard.
How quiet was the locker room? Or was it?
It was very quiet because of the way that we lost the game. In a blowout, it's always chatter.
That's right.
You know why?
Sure.
Because that settled in a long time ago that you lost the game. You got over that feeling. It's on to the next, short-term memory. But when you lose a game like the way we lost it, like in comeback fashion like that to where you're supposed to put it in the end zone, continue the game, and then ultimately be Super Bowl champions, and it didn't happen that way, we're all just sitting in our lockers reflecting like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. That's the way it came down? This crazy week through an ice storm and all the silliness that was going on that entire week, the shortened week. Remember, that was the first time the NFL went to playing the Super Bowl the week after the AFC and the NFC championships games, right? Okay. So we didn't have this 2-week run-up to the Super Bowl.
That's
so
right.
Just a lot of stuff going on.
AFC championship game was the 23rd of January, Super Bowl 34, January 30th. Right. Kayla, you talk about a gut-wrenching scene in the locker room. I remember Steve McNair weeping. I remember Eddie George weeping. I remember going to see Dr. Burton Elrod to check on Blaine because I thought he had killed himself and he'd knocked himself out of that ball game. I'm also thinking if he's still in that ball game, maybe the result's different too.
If Marcus hadn't gotten a motorcycle wreck a couple weeks before the game, our starting safety, Marcus
correct.
Robertson,
jeez,
broke his leg. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
A lot of stuff going on in that season.
Yeah.
You talked about the confetti sticking to your bald head. Jeez. You remember the song they played?
I don't even remember. What was it?
The Best by Tina Turner.
Oh, really? Simply the best.
Yep.
Goodness.
I hate Dick Vermeil to this day.
I'm with you in that. I'm with you in that.
I actually like him a lot.
No, he's a nice
Just the whole, if I watch him and Kurt Warner hugging and crying again, I'm going to push them both off that podium.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, Kurt is a good guy and, done a lot for the league. And that movie they made about him is apparently decent.
I've seen it.
Have no interest in watching
that
movie.
Somebody hit me with that a few months ago. It's like, hey, have you seen that? It's really good. I'm like, nope.
No,
don't want to watch it.
Oh, that's the one where the Titans. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I bet that
and for that reason alone, I will not ever. I won't watch the trailer. I won't see anything.
Do you remember the movie? What's the movie with Tom Hanks where he's stranded on the island?
Yeah,
Castaway.
Castaway.
Yeah, all right.
The way that she, his wife, what's his girl's name?
It was Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt, right?
The way that she described the Super Bowl was the way that we all viewed the Super Bowl. It's like, so Nashville got a team, and they're called the Titans, and they almost won the Super Bowl. So her assessment of trying to get Tom Hanks up to speed since he's been on this island for years was exactly how people view Super Bowl 34. Wasn't that they won it?
He had been rescued and was back home in Memphis and had been there 5 seconds. That's one of the first things she mentioned. That's so crazy.
Pretty funny.
All right, so the last one, and this is going to take a couple minutes. This is a package that's kind of put together with some old NFL films music, and you've already mentioned this morning, Brad. But this is my favorite Steve McNair game, hands down. It is the precursor. I'm convinced it's the precursor to him winning MVP in 2003. This is December the 1st, 2002, at the Meadowlands against the New York Giants. And classic Titans, classic fighting, battling, coming from behind. So, and I remember this trip well because this is the first time I ever went to New York. And we went into Manhattan, and I went to Ground Zero. This is 15 months after 9/11 happened. And there's this giant hole in the ground, and people there seeing this hole in the ground and placing roses in the fence and putting their pictures in the fence and weeping openly. You could have held a church service, and this is just a few blocks over from all the hustle bustle. And so that is etched in my mind. And then the next day, what happens. So the Titans are on the road to the Meadowlands against Kerry Collins and the Giants, as a matter of fact. And they are trailing 29-21 with 2:26 left in the game. And in this package, you're going to hear Jeff Triplett, who was the official that day. You're going to hear Jim Schwartz. You're going to hear Jeff Fisher. You're going to hear Frank Wycheck. And the late, great offensive coordinator Mike Heimerdinger all in this package. But trailing by 8 with 2:26 left, the Titans' magic is real.
2 minutes to go in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
When Steve has a slightly off day, he typically comes back and answers. And, boy, I'll tell you what, you saw firsthand what he's capable of doing.
McNair from the gun on 2nd and 4. Throws, got it to Wycheck, complete for the first down. McNair throws quickly. He's got it to Mason, who can't get out of bounds. McNair with 1:15 now. Snaps it, fires. Mason's got it at the 46 with his first down. McNair from the gun takes a snap. Fires deep downfield down the right side for Simon. He's there. Incomplete. Oh, that's a flag. No penalty thrown. Big 3rd and 10 upcoming. McNair, quick throw. Berlin at the 40 and down. He's got the first down. Clock running. 42 seconds to go. McNair facing a 3-man rush. Pressure coming. He steps up. He gets away. He's going to run. 35. McNair 30. Trying to get to the sidelines. Out of bounds.
Your crowd's booing because they let Steve McNair break contains. Obviously, they hadn't seen his act much before because he does that routinely.
McNair fires right side. Bennett 20, 15, and he's down at the 9. 14 seconds to go. McNair takes the snap. Looks. Fires into the end zone. Caught! That should be a touchdown. Wycheck's got the ball in the end zone. They're talking about it. Touchdown, Titans! I can't figure out why there was no signal.
They're checking to see if he really caught the football.
After reviewing the play, there is not indisputable visual evidence with which to overturn the call on the field. Therefore, that call will stand. It is a touchdown.
Steve hung with me. I turned around. The ball was already in flight. And he put it in a place where no one else could get it but me. And fortunately, I got my hand underneath it, and it was a clean catch.
McNair takes the snap. Quarterback draw. He's in there. 2 for Tennessee.
It's a play that we've practiced, and it's a pass-run option. And if we get everybody to walk out and give us the lead draw, we figure that's as good as anybody to carry that ball 2 yards and get it in.
We've got a tie ball game.
Will be 15-minute overtime. The first team that scores wins.
And you knew he was just in his zone.
McNair dropping, throwing, caught. Going out of bounds after making the catch is Bennett at the 32.
So much for practice. Am I complaining all week that he didn't have practice?
McNair drops the snap, picks it up, throws right side. There's Simon at the 41. He gets away. 45, 50, 45 and out of bounds. AM South, first down, Tennessee. What a move! Young John Simon.
We designed a couple in the dirt and took advantage of some things they were doing. Some guys made some good plays.
Give the ball, Holcomb, 30, 25, 20, and he's down at the 19.
They gave us a blitz, and he cut it back away from the blitz and got us the 15 yards we needed.
Snap, set, kick on the way. Good! The Titans come from behind and steal one at the Meadowlands.
We were 1-4 and everybody wrote us off, and we formed our identity then. So what happens is you got a bunch of guys that have seen the bottom, so nothing scares them. They can go out and play against tough situations and be able to rise up.
Final score, 32-29 in overtime. The Titans get the win, and the reason I say that's the precursor to Steve winning the MVP the next year is because he was in the New York market that day. People saw him, and it's like, whoa, this guy's a dude, right? And he put on a show, 30 of 43, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns against a very good New York Giants team. And this is McNair has the busted ribs. He has a calf. He has all these things. His shot had worn off at that point. I remember him gasping for air in the locker room. I thought, God, he's going to die. But nope, old steady Steve. You guys were something special back then, man. God almighty.
Yeah, I told you, actually, Kayla and Will, at the beginning of our program, how Steve took the huddle before that play actually even started, before that series, the drive even started. And just his calming presence, it meant so much to us to be able to go out there and focus the way we did.
I heard you say that, and it reminded me of that old story about Joe Montana on that last drive against the Bengals. Hey, there's John Candy up in that. You know, it was one of those things where you're like, okay, he's here. He's ready to play. We're dialed in now. Let's take a breath. Here we go.
But there's no more pivotal a personality than the one that Steve had in those moments because he didn't get rattled.
Mm-hmm.
The moment was never greater than him.
Rhett. It was never bigger than he was.
Cool as a cucumber.
And it was that unflappable, I guess, characteristic about him that made him such a unique player because you never saw nervousness in his eyes. He never showed you any sort of wide-eyed concern about what was going on, the situation. He just was calm, cool, and collected the entire time.
Man,
And that was
awesome.
amazing.
The widest eyed I ever saw him was that sideline shot of him during the miracle play.
I was just about to say that when
That's
he's watching
the only
Dyson run
time.
by him.
And obviously he wasn't involved in the play.
And he's looking.
Yeah.
I think John Takahashi was by him, Caleb.
Yes.
He was standing right next to him.
Yes, he was.
As we were watching, because we were all watching. Of course, if you're going to switch gears, talking about that play, I mean, we're just looking at good field position. I'm sure Steve was standing on the sideline, just going over what plays that we needed to get into to be able to get into the end zone. Not knowing that KD was going to run the whole thing back anyway. That's the best extra point ever for an offensive lineman. It's the one you didn't have to beat on.
And KD wasn't even the backup to the backup.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Isaac Bird was supposed to be in on that play. Then Derek Mason was supposed to be in that play. They were both dinged up, and here comes KD.
Man.
I know you guys practice it at the last play of practice every day. You're like, we're never going to do this. This is
Way
garbage.
we into practice. All right, let's do that dumb play again.
Yeah, come on.
Here we go.
Home run throwback. There we go.
That's right.
You should see the number of times that the throwback didn't work. You know what I mean? In practice, like
That's
y'all
true.
You were really going to try and do that dumb stuff in the game?
And then there you
well,
go.
guess what? It worked.
It worked.
Well, the Buffalo special teams coordinator was fired the next week, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken.
They were so mad about that.
Rhett, Bryan,
They're
our
still
guest.
mad about that.
Wednesdays at 9. Yes, Bills fans, if you're watching on 104.5 The Zone TV, it was a backwards lateral, or it was just a lateral, because
Yeah, it
the
was a
definition of lateral is that it's completely sideways.
No forward pass here, folks.
That's right. Rhett, thank you. This is so much fun.
Thank you, Rhett.
It's awesome.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you all.
Coming up, Inky Johnson joins us. A little bit of midweek motivation to finish off your holiday week Wednesday that might feel a little bit like a Monday. Words you need in your life. Coming up next from Inky on 104.5 The Zone. One final segment this morning on your Wednesday edition of Ramon, Kalen, Will. Special thanks to Rhett, Bryan, and Rocky Boiman for stopping by today. Coming up tomorrow, we've got installment number 3 of the RKW draft. A great draft for Brad Hopkins to join us for tomorrow morning, as well as Coach Dave McGinnis, who will be able to remember Steve McNair and go down memory lane for our Throwback Thursday conversation here in July with Coach Mack tomorrow morning. Those highlights were awesome that Rhett brought again today. I feel like I'm going back to my childhood hearing old school Mike Keith and old original Titans on my radio.
Yeah. This is all new to me, too, because I'm not from these parts.
Right.
Wasn't that old at that time, obviously, so didn't know a lot about anything over here. So it's always very interesting because since I've been here, you hear so much about Steve McNair. I mean, my timeline yesterday on Twitter flooded with Steve McNair. Flooded.
Every July 4th.
It's incredible what he did, the impact he made here in Nashville. Before that franchise was even here that long, right?
He was the only.
It's incredible.
If you think about it, he and Eddie George were the only people that anyone outside of our market could identify with.
Sure.
Because they weren't household names. And I thought Rhett brought up a good point. The fact that we played in the Meadowlands, right? And it wasn't prime time, I don't think. It was just because it was daylight out. So it had to be like a noon start or 3 o'clock start, something like that. But the fact that he played on that stage, introducing America to who he was as a player,
sure,
it just kind of showed you we were relatively obscure when it comes to the national names, right?
Yeah.
But, when Eddie George is running our ground attack, Steve's throwing the ball for us, and we're playing in the Super Bowl, I think people were just kind of curious because, remember, it was the greatest show on turf, which is the reason why you tuned into Super Bowl 34. Correct. They wanted to watch Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, and the likes, along with that defense. Kevin Carter was Defensive Player of the Year. They were just loaded for bear, right? And then here's us, who just happened to beat Jacksonville, who was what they thought they were going to play.
Sure.
This is supposed to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were 14-2 during the regular season, playing against the St. Louis Rams. Well, we put a kibosh in that whole deal by taking care of Alltel Stadium and calling it our own. But, the same thing can be said about Steve's career is that it was from that microcosm of celebrity status or whatever else. We never really had that guy. Chris Johnson, I thought, might have been somebody that was on the Madden cover that kind of kept that relevance as far as having pivotal players like that, as is Derrick Henry. But this franchise doesn't really get loaded with star power.
You're right.
You see what I'm saying?
You're right.
Crazy thing about that, too, is that I think the most interesting and surprising piece of Titans trivia to the general NFL community is Javon Curse's rookie NFL sack record that still stands to this day.
People were terrified of him.
14 and a half sacks in 16 games in 1999 still stands. Micah Parsons didn't break it. Alden Smith had 14. Micah Parsons had 13. Dwight Freeney and Reggie White. Javon Curse still stands atop that leaderboard. And I feel like people around the league and around the country have no idea.
The freak.
I didn't get it at first because he never beat me one time in practice ever. Even when he went to the Eagles, he couldn't get a sniff.
Yeah.
I never understood that, but it was that get off. Right? His speed was just ridiculous. Yeah. And he had arms like a condor.
So huge. His wingspan and his hands.
Good Lord. Like a pterodactyl.
The fact that he fell to the Titans in that draft is still one of the all-time breaks that went our way. Was Javon Curse being available. It was the biggest no-brainer pick.
And I'll give credit to somebody that actually did a lot for his career and Albert's, which was Jim Washburn.
Oh, yes.
Jim Washburn was creating trained killers on that side of the football, right? And Javon was one of his products.
Yep.
Teaching him how to use the snap count, getting out in that wide stance like that, making tackles move their feet against a guy that was a linebacker coming out of school. He wasn't an edge rusher. So the freak was definitely in his hands. Let me tell you this real quick.
Dude.
So I broke my hand. I broke both my hands a couple times. And I played in casts, so I didn't miss a game, right? We were playing in some inclement weather. I wanted to have my cast covered. I took one of Javon's gloves and put it over my casted hand, Kayla. Over my casted hand.
Yeah,
and it fit. I think the fingers were still long. I was flopping around like a scarecrow. You see what I'm saying, though? Yeah. That's how big my man's hands were. That it fit over my hands with a cast.
Sure.
Dude, it was crazy.
Nuts.
I just remember my family at the time being like, yeah, we got this Florida Gator we got to cheer for now.
Right?
Is that how you took it, Will?
Stupid
A
gator.
little bit.
Dumb gator.
Freaking gator.
Yeah. Thankfully, Jabbar Gaffney was never a Titan.
Was it harder to
Hate that
root
guy.
for him or against Peyton for you?
Ooh.
It was not hard. Well, we just didn't root against Peyton. I mean, it's like I'll be
Let me
honest.
tell you
like,
how much we couldn't stand Peyton Manning.
I
when we
know.
moved
Oh,
here.
I'm sure.
I know.
Because that's all we hear about in Nashville,
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee, with Peyton Manning.
it's
Kids, people
Tennessee.
naming their kids Peyton and all this other stuff. Are you kidding me? Didn't even win a
Sure.
national championship for Tennessee, but yeah, he gets all this lore, right?
you know, I
does.
was almost named Peyton, right? Like my dad
Oh,
legitimately
God.
got shot down and tried to name me Peyton.
And good thing.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
What's your
because-
mom's name?
It wasn't.
What's your mom's
my
name?
mom's name is Ann.
Good job, Ann. Way to stick to your guns.
My girlfriend's name is Peyton also, so
Oh
we're
my
very
God,
thankful.
stop.
That was not. No,
So-
dead serious. Yeah.
Was she named after Peyton?
No, she wasn't. She
You
wasn't.
can't say she's not.
Who's to say? We got to wrap up,
Right.
and we do so with our guy Inky Johnson and Midweek Motivation, as we do every Wednesday morning here on the show. Back at it tomorrow, same crew, same time at 6 a.m. on your Thursday. Here's Inky closing us out on a Wednesday.
It's almost as if cats lose respect for winning, right? It's not the win. You want to win. Everybody want to win. You lose respect for what it takes to win. The process, dedication, commitment, work ethic, sacrifice. That's what you lose respect for. What it takes to win, right? You disrespect the blessing. You don't just disrespect you disrespect what it takes in order to be blessed, right? Respecting the people that come into your life and say, hey, young blood, I don't want nothing from you, man. I just want you to pick up what I'm putting down. I'm just trying to help you, bro, right? You lose respect for that. It's almost as if cats lose respect.